Houston is a city rich in diversity and defined by exquisite taste. Today on Homeworthy, we're counting down 5 of our favorite homes that showcase the city's vibrant energy, starting with an interior designer's sophisticated residence encompassed by flourishing gardens and ending with a gut-renovated apartment defined by its art. Be sure to let us know your own favorite in the comments below. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Anne. Welcome to my Texas home. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hello, my name is Ann Wolf, and you are in my living room in my home in Houston, Texas. When we were building the house, I remember initially we weren't clear about what style. We kept telling our architects we wanted stucco, and they kept giving us kind of Mediterranean designed houses. And then we established that we really actually love the architecture of the Northeast. I was born and raised in New York, and we really wanted a classical house. And so it turns out that we got a very traditional classical house on the inside and stucco on the outside. Welcome to my foyer. This is my entry hall. One of the nicest features I think about my entry hall are these hand stenciled walls. You can see they're really beautifully, subtly detailed with a motif that we took from the rug in the living room. And there's some really fantastic decorative painters here in Houston. And they were able to really make the room feel alive with these, I don't know, maybe apricot trees, fanciful fantasy trees, and also some Chinese porcelain over the entry hall. I always love to have a table full of flowers or a plant. This is a beautiful planter that my friend Alex Papakristides gave me as a gift, and it's from his Everyday Elegance collection. Over here is a Dutch chest, and on the chest I have a small collection of Delft. I collect a lot of different types of pottery and porcelain, and Delft is one of my favorites. This is actually a gift from some of my best friends for a really big birthday that I just had, and these are porcelain flowers, and they're made by the artist Vladimir in New York. I think that there's no detail that's not worth thinking about. One of my favorite lampshades is this lampshade that was made out of an old Indian batik. And I think I actually made it for a client and she didn't want it. So some of the best things I have, I think were rejected by clients. On this side of the room, we have a pair of custom-made consoles. Basically, and banquettes, sorry. A place to put your purse, or nobody really ever sits here, but it makes the space feel cozy to have furniture on every wall. The building process was really actually a lot of fun. My husband and I both love the process of building and designing houses. This is the second house that we did together, and we love our architects. Bill Curtis and Russell Wyndham. So we just really enjoyed it. We loved going to meetings, we loved studying the plans. My husband was really engaged with moving doors and eliminating doors and just placement of things. I didn't know as much back then as I know now, so it was a learning process for both of us. But we loved our architect, we loved our builder, and so we really had a great experience. I know sometimes when I observe in my business, when couples get together and they do houses, it can be kind of stressful if they have different approaches or different ideas about building. But for us, it was just really fun. Now we're going to go to the living room. When I start designing a room, I always like to think about the rug first. But in this case, I had the privilege of designing around a painting. The painting over my mantle has really beautiful colors in it, and I thought that would be a great departure point for the palette of the room. So I kind of started from there. I was really inspired by the reds and the yellows and the blues of the painting. And so I kind of managed to incorporate all those colors into the room, into the fabrics and the walls. The walls haven't always been this color. They started up peach, and they were peach for many years. And then I got a new painting, and when the painting arrived, it just felt really dead against the peach walls. So I painted the walls this color, and I would say they're closest to, really raspberry. We actually took a bowl of raspberries and tried to match that in a paint color. It's a decorative glaze, so it's not a color that I could share with you, but it's raspberry. So I was able to create 2 seating areas in this living room, and one is around the fireplace. We don't really need to use our fireplace much here in Houston because it's not cold for very long, but it's always nice to use the fireplace as a focal point in a room, and in this case it worked out. My husband comes from a family of collectors. His parents were actually quite well-known collectors of American 18th century furniture, and my mother-in-law's living room really looked like a room at the Met. It had a uniformity and really an authenticity of being, you could have been in the 18th century in that room. And we inherited some lovely pieces and then added. So we started off with a lot of brown wood. And I really like to mix it up a bit. So in order sort of to have my living room not look like my mother-in-law's, I mixed in Swedish and Italian pieces. I like painted furniture a lot mixed with brown wood. So there's this room is more of a mix, I think. Pairs are always good. You don't want to have so many pairs that it looks like a pair party, but yeah, I tend to like symmetry, so I do have a lot of pairs. It's nice to be able to seat 6 or 8 people in a conversation area. So that's what you kind of always have to think about. How many people can sit in this space, and then if there are more, how many chairs can we pull into the space? In this case, we can squeeze quite a few people around in this conversation area. The ceiling is a trompe-l'oeil ceiling, and it's meant to look three-dimensional. Actually, it was my son's idea to paint the ceiling. We had already done the room and kind of looked up and said, "Mom, that ceiling's really white." And so we had our very, very talented decorative painters come in and paint it, and the crack in the ceiling reminds me every day that perfection is elusive, and life happens. I bought these tables several years ago, They came from the Mario Boita estate, and I don't know if he ever had them in his home. He had a lot of furniture that he collected over the years, but I really fell in love with them, and I just had to have them, and kind of got into a bit of a bidding war with somebody over them, but they're really one of my favorite things that I own. And what's so wonderful about them is they're both slightly different. There are two, and they open up, and they have this magnificent color paint on the inside as well. So you can see how this one opens up, and it has this lovely melon-colored interior. Yeah, these are spectacular. You know, a room always kind of tells you what you can do with it furniture-wise, and it just seemed to make a lot of sense to have a sofa against this wall. I do like to here's something that's not a pair, is these upholstered chairs. They're quite different from one another. I actually just reupholstered my sofa after 20 years. I tend to tweak things a little bit. I think any designer will tell you that their house is a bit of a laboratory, and you have the freedom to try new things and try different things in your own house. So all this furniture has been here for a long time, but I recently changed the color of the walls, like I said, to work better with this painting. The artist is a woman named Pearl Fine. She was an abstract expressionist who painted out in Long Island in the 50s and 60s. So I repainted the walls so that the Pearl Fine painting would pop and look more beautiful against them. And then I reupholstered my sofa. But otherwise, everything is kind of as it was, as it's been for 20 years. I think if you buy things that are classic and that you love, and the best things that you can afford to buy, you'll have them for a really long time. This chest on chest actually was in my in-laws' collection, and it's called the Roebling Highboy, and the Roeblings actually built the Brooklyn Bridge, and I think the Brooklyn Bridge just had a big anniversary. So the Roebling family was in the news. You have to be really patient when you're doing a project like this, and even when you move in, as you'll see when I'm walking you through my house, there are so many different layers, and those can't happen right away. They happen over time, and you just have to be patient and dedicate yourself to really understand that you're never finished decorating. I don't know who said you're finished decorating when you die. I mean, I think that's true. My mother-in-law died recently, and she was 94, and she still wanted to reupholster her sofas, so I don't think that urge ever goes away. Welcome to the dining room. This dining room started off with the idea, there's a historic house in Houston called Bayou Bend, and I always thought they had the most beautiful dining room because of their mural that was painted on the walls. And so I actually copied the mural at Bayou Bend. I had my local decorative painters, they painted it on canvas, and first the canvas was silver leafed, so you can see lots of little squares of silver leaf, and then they painted on and then they glazed the silver leaf, and then they painted on top of that this scene of dogwoods and peonies. We can't grow dogwoods here, we tried, but it's not the right zone. But I just think that they create such a beautiful atmosphere in the room. When they came and installed it, it was a very exciting day, and then they came back and added critters. So we have hummingbirds and butterflies and little birds and bees, and it creates a really beautiful, charming, warm palette at night as well as during the day. I think it took them over a year to do it, actually. I remember going over to their studio and they had these big canvas panels just hanging up on the wall. And I think the silver leafing took a long time because you can see each one is a little square of silver leaf. And so they had to actually apply each piece of silver leaf to the wall, to the canvas. And then I suppose the painting was not as laborious as the prep work on it. but I'll have to ask my decorative painter. I don't know if he'll remember. It was a while ago, but yeah. So I think the beauty in this is the way that it glows, the way the leaf is sort of antiqued and it glows at night, and then the painting of the flowers and the trees is actually matte on top. It's not shiny. It's a matte paint, which is a nice contrast. The chandelier is Swedish and the table is American, triple pedestal. I love triple pedestal tables. I love the flexibility that they give you when you can make them larger or smaller. The flowers are from Trader Joe's. Probably the best bargain out there are Trader Joe's flowers. And then, of course, this collection of blue and white Delft and some Chinese porcelain mixed in. I have a collection of Delft pottery, and I mix it with Blanc de Chine. I don't really know that much about Blanc de Chine, but I just thought some of it was really, really beautiful and looks so nice against the blue and white pottery. These consoles are Swedish, and I replaced the tops. They had originally wood tops, and I wanted to jazz them up a little bit, so I put a stone on top. This is actually a jade stone that I found in Dallas. And it's shaped exactly as the top was shaped in its original iteration. What most people say is that it's warm and welcoming and cozy. I have some big rooms and some beautiful, important things in it, but the important thing to me is that it feel welcoming and warm and bright. I think the rooms are scaled properly, and with rooms that are beautifully designed architecturally, it's much easier to decorate that and to accomplish that, to get to that feeling. I do work on a lot of houses in Houston that have extremely high ceilings, or they're really, really big and there's a lot of extra space, and it becomes more challenging to make it feel cozy. But I feel like warmth and to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere is the most important thing. So welcome to my library. This library is, I designed kind of around all of my husband's collections. When I met my husband, he had a real passion for Tiffany lighting. He had this Tiffany chandelier in his apartment in New York in his bachelor pad when he was in his 20s. And then he had a whole collection of American paintings from the early part of the 20th century. Niall Spencer, Ralston Crawford, Charles Sheeler, and I didn't really get them initially, and then I've really grown to love them over the years. So my idea for this room was to create a more masculine room. Yeah, so every library needs books, and we have collected art books, and so most of these books are art books, and I'm obsessively organized, so they're all organized by category. And we always had the idea that we would put Matthew's Tiffany balance lamps up around the top of the room. And so we have 5 of these little Tiffany balance lamps that create a little bit of a warm glow at night and lots of nice color. And then we realized we had these big alcoves at the top to fill up, and so my husband started collecting this glass. It was made by Tiffany and Stu Ben in the early part of the 20th century, and it's called Orine glass. And basically they come in blues and this lovely kind of yellowy ochre color. And so he had a lot of fun on eBay and at antique fairs putting together this collection of glass. I think it really goes well with the palette of the room too, and it was kind of a happy accident. It just kind of unfolded that way, I would say. And then over here, it's an architect's desk. I bought it years ago in Paris at the flea market, and it houses a lot more of this special glass that my husband adores. We had to do a little intervention on him and tell him he couldn't buy any more because he was really getting carried away with it. But it's nice. You can use I use the vases sometimes when I have a party. I'll fill them up with flowers, or when Homeworthy's coming by, I will go out and get some flowers for my vases. And so this room is sort of a nice intimate room to be when we have 1 or 2 couples over for a cocktail. Kind of had this vision that I would sit in here at night with my husband and have a cocktail, but that didn't really happen. Welcome to my sunroom. One of the nicest features of this room is the floor, which has also been decoratively painted to look like tiles. I think they did a really convincing job of making it look like old tiles, with scuff marks and lots of wear and fading. And it was an accident because we really wanted this tile and we had a little piece of it and we thought we had bought it from Italy, but it had been sold to someone else. So all we had was a little square that we gave to our decorative painters, and they painted it on. This room is sort of like, it's an afternoon sunroom, and it's filled with more collections of things that I love. In this case, it's plants and majolica and palissy and Chinese porcelain. It's a great space to sit. Sometimes I sit here and read the paper, or we visit in here. When my sons were living at home, we always came in here on the weekends and did a little study session in here. So it's kind of a French-inspired room, I would say. The settee was one of the first things that I bought for the house, and it was when First Dibs was just the flea market in Paris. This came from First Dibs. That's how long I've been at this. So this was a First Dibs purchase, maybe one of my first Dibs purchases. The wallpaper is Colfax and Fowler, which is quintessentially English. And yet some of the shapes of the furniture are French. This is Napoleon III. These are French, where they made for seltzer dispensers. And so it does definitely have a gardeny feel. I bought the collection of hyacinth jars all kind of in one fell swoop. It doesn't happen very often that way, but I saw the collection when I was shopping in London. And again, kind of influenced by our famous historic home here, Bayou Bend. They have a beautiful collection of colored glass on shelves in front of a window, and I really wanted to have that, so we put the glass shelves in front of this window, and that's a really nice way to appreciate colored glass. So these are the hyacinth jars. They're for forcing at home. I've done it a couple times, not as often as I should, but I just love the glass. I just love to look at them empty with the light shining through them. This is actually a bronze relief. It's by Augustus St. Gaudens, who designed, the penny nickel, very famous American sculptor. And so this is sisters. This is the profiles of some sisters by Augustus St. Gaudens. I grew up in Manhattan, and when I met and married my husband, I had never been to Texas. I worked in New York in retail. I worked at Macy's. I did their training program. I became an assistant buyer. I worked in Macy's corporate. And then my last job in New York was working for Ralph Lauren in his design studio on a line of clothing. And when I got married and we moved to Texas, I quit my job, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with myself. I knew I wanted to have children, but I didn't know how I would be able to work as well here. And the way life is, things just kind of unfold and you stumble from one thing to the next. But I started off a little company right after my first child was born, and it was called the Little Wolf Furniture Company. I made little upholstered chairs out of vintage fabrics that my mother and I would go and shop for at peer shows, and I had a really great collection of vintage children's fabrics. So I started this company and I took a loan from my husband. He loaned me $4,000. I never paid him back, but he loves to remind me. And it was pretty, it was pretty good. It was pre-internet, so it was hard even just to figure out where the stores were that would sell the furniture. I remember getting yellow pages and looking up children's stores in different places. But I ended up doing a pretty good business privately. People would call, and through a store on Madison Avenue called Portico Kids. And so then after doing that for 6 years, we bought a house, I decorated it. Friends would come by and they liked it and they said, oh, could you make me a sofa? Could you do this? And sort of, it was just a kind of a natural segue to go from having a little furniture company to becoming an interior designer. I am self-taught. I never worked for anyone. I wish I had. I wish I had the foresight to know that this was something that I really wanted to do, but I didn't. So I just kind of figured it out as I went along. So there's a room at the Biltmore that inspired this Butler's Pantry. So it's kind of a pantry, but it's also a bar. It's where we entertain and have cocktails sometimes. At night when we have friends over, everybody loves a small space, so people tend to gather in here and gather around this island, which also houses an ice maker and a wine refrigerator. I have a lot of dishes. I recently inherited a lot of dishes from my mother-in-law who passed away last summer. So we've been doing some rearranging in here. Let me show you some of my collections first. I absolutely adore, like you've seen, pottery and porcelain, and I started collecting this. It's called salt glaze stoneware. Actually, I'll show you. The first piece I ever bought was this one. I never found anything as large as this one, but I bought this in Texas from a dealer my husband and I used to love to go visit. So this is called salt glaze stoneware. It's mostly English. I think that I might have a couple of American pieces, but I think it's mostly English. And you can buy the books on it, and some things that are marked you can date and see when and where they were made. But I loved the kind of bisky, subtle, soft, hazy colors of it. And I actually kind of designed this room and the palette of this room around this collection of stoneware. These are some really beautiful stoneware soups. This cabbage I bought in Maine at one of the Americana fairs from a dealer, and it's quite early, and the top comes off. Yeah. I just love it. And then I'll show you how I keep my dishes here. A lot of them are on display, and then these drawers are great for different sets of dishes. I have accumulated a lot over the years from used to be this really great dealer here. It was called E-Dish, and he had thousands of different patterns and dishes in an antique mall that was really quite close to my house. So I used to go there and buy dishes too. Some of these are recently inherited, my favorite Royal Copenhagen pattern. I have a lot of blue and white, and then a mixture of other things. I haven't used these yet. These were my mother-in-law's. I think they're heron. They're all beautifully, individually different, featuring different flowers. These are aptware, and these are French pottery, and they're made in the town of Apt, and they're made from clay that comes from their earth there. And my husband and I went on a bike trip years ago, and I engineered it so that we would go through this town, and went to this little shop and bought all these lovely dishes. I love the way the green looks in my dining room. Welcome to my family room. This room is another little cozy spot where we hang out a lot. It's right next to the kitchen. I recently redid the walls in a nami-sami fabric. It's fabric that is applied like wallpaper. It's glued to the walls. And the ceiling is a Fromenthal wallpaper. On the sofa are pillows from places I've been. I think I bought these in Istanbul maybe 20 years ago on a trip to Istanbul. And this is a needlepoint pillow that I made. I designed it based on a fragment of an old Indian batik tablecloth that I bought. I love the way all the colors look all mixed up together. This was actually Vaughn's first fabric, Vaughan Lighting. Some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Vaughan. It was their first fabric that they made, and I think I was one of their first customers. And it still continues to please me. This was like a kind of I think it was a mid-COVID moment where we thought, we were just living here and looking, lying on the sofa, staring at the ceiling, thinking, this could be maybe we could up this a notch. And I have a lot of vendors come by and show me beautiful things all the time. And I remember one of my favorite road reps, this guy named Brian from Ellen Knight, whipped out the new Fromenthal wall covering, and I walked right over to the ceiling and I stuck it up and I said, we gotta do this right here. This is gonna work so beautifully with everything in the room. So I'm lucky I have a lot of people coming and showing me beautiful things to inspire me. The coffee table is wicker, and it's something I've had forever. I've had it for probably 25 years, and it opens up and it's a storage basket coffee table, and it's nothing special. It just works. This is our breakfast room, and I think one of the nicest features of this room is these circular windows, these curved windows at the front that look out into the garden. And it's a really lovely feature of the house is these curved windows. Off of our breakfast room is one of the access points to the garden, so we have the ability to sit outside and have meals when it's not too scorching hot like it is today. We also have a little seating area over here, which is shaded, mercifully shaded, which is a lovely place just to hang out. This is our pool. Sometimes we entertain under this pergola here. We had a table that was made by local craftsmen. It's I can't remember if it's 15 feet long. It's a really big table. We can gather a lot of people around it. We looked at a lot of gardens. Curtis and Wyndham did the gardens as well, and we looked at a lot of gardens, and I'm trying to remember the name. But all American gardens, but I can't really remember the inspiration. We really wanted something low maintenance, which is completely laughable now, but we don't have a lot of seasonal color, so I guess that makes it a little bit less high maintenance, but a garden requires constant devotion. We used to have beautiful orange trees in these containers that my husband lovingly tended, and then we had a freeze two winters ago, and we lost all of the citrus, and we haven't been able to get it back. So now we just content ourselves with gardenias. So welcome to my office. This is where I spend the majority of my time in my house, in my office. We keep a full fabric library here. Even though we do have a really great design center in Houston, it helps to have the fabrics on hand all the time, as well as a library, a reference library for myself and for my clients. And this is where I work. Not a bad view. I get to look outside. I feel very, very lucky to be able to work here. This is where we have meetings, and when we're not going to our clients' houses, we have meetings here in this office, and we do presentations on these boards. This is where I work and live. I am about to announce that I have formed a partnership with my longtime employee, Ashley Holden, and we're going to do a name change. It's time for her to get some of the credit as well. We're going to be Wolf Holden Design Studio, and that's coming soon. We're working on a new website, and we're very excited to launch that, hopefully in the near future. This is our upstairs family room, and this is where we hang out and watch TV at night. And these are all Warhol watercolors from the 1950s. My husband collects them as well. And this is actually the second color that I've had up on the walls. And initially I had a kind of a golden yellow on the walls, and it just didn't really pop. So we repainted it this beautiful slate blue, and it really highlights all of the paintings that are up against it. One of my more needlepoint rug, needlepoint pillows, lots of family pictures, and just another cozy place to hang. This is my bedroom. The walls are painted decoratively 3 shades of blue, and I guess it's fair to say blue is my favorite color. I've always loved this style of curtain where it kind of swoops back. My husband's been after me to change the curtains. It's really odd. You would never think that a husband would want to redecorate more than a wife. Usually it's the other way around, but yeah, he wants to change, and I'll be really sad. I don't know if I'm going to give in to him because I still really love my bedroom, even though it's 20 years old. The bed is something that I copied from an old French bed. My nightstand is Swedish Rococo. I think it's 18th century Swedish Rococo. I bought it from a really good dealer in New York named Jill Dienst. The carpet is stark. My mother made me these needlepoint rugs many, many years ago. She was an avid needlepointer as well, so I've always lived with them, and I love having them be the first thing I see when I wake up in the morning. We have a couple of Warhol drawings hanging over the bed, kind of a his and a her facing each other. Of course, more Delft. In this case, polychrome Delft, gathered on top of this American highboy, and pretty much anywhere else that I have a spot to put it. You know, I always really want to feel like I'm in an English country home. And honestly, I was just in an English country home, and I came home and I thought my bedroom was better than anything that I saw there. But it's my fantasy. It's my fantasy of an English country home. Just lots of layer and lots of pattern and lots of memories. I think home is a place where you can fully be comfortable and be yourself. And you can surround yourself with memories and create your own, you're in control of your own environment as much as that's possible in this world, to be in control of your own environment. But home is a place for love and family and memories and work for me. It's also a place for work.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Matteo. Welcome to my home here in Houston. Cannot wait to show you around. Come on in.
Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Matteo Harris, the designer of Matteo, New York, and you're here in my Houston home. So, I moved back from Luxembourg in 2019 after a long stint in Europe, and I was searching for a home. COVID came and I've always loved Houston, so I took a little road trip down to Houston, came and saw a few properties, lost the first property that I put in an offer for due to the seller pulling back, not wanting to sell the properties. And my realtor said to me, come and look at this last house. The moment I came through the door, I immediately knew it. The floor to ceiling, double height living room just blew my mind away. Sure, it was dated and a bit aged and in old Texan fashion, but I knew the bones were just fantastic. So I bought the house and completely gut-renovated it. I mean, there were bars everywhere. There was a gas fireplace everywhere. I got rid of all of that and then made it, you know, a very modern, relaxing and welcoming home. Welcome to my foyer. As you can see, it's quite quaint, and I decided to really open up the space because when I bought this house, we had these old farmhouse banisters and it just really made the space feel so compact. But as you can tell now with the new modern touches, it really just opens up the space and give it a breath of fresh air. There's a beautiful light sculpture in the ceiling by Michael Anastasides, a Spanish lighting designer. And this piece is called the arrangement. You can choose whichever configuration you'd like, and you can add as many pieces as you'd like. I've always wanted this piece, so the moment I could save my coins to get it, I definitely went for it. And I think it just is a great conversation piece when you walk in. I also went with a frameless banister because we're grown adults and I don't have kids. I know everyone is always concerned about falling off, but I think it's just a beautiful architectural touch. And we also went with these beautiful wide oak planks for the staircase, which I absolutely adore. And then we added this beautiful quartz inlay for a modern touch. I really just love the entry, and I think the entry of a house should just be welcoming and warm. I don't know, I just love it. I really do. It really makes me happy once I walk in. To the left of the foyer is the dining room, and I will now show you. Welcome to my dining room. It's kind of a room filled with pop colors. Very modern, a vintage Leon Rosen table that I got in Atlanta while I was on a trip. And I've been watching actually this table on First Dibs for so long. Went to Atlanta and found it on a deal. I think I paid nothing for it. Changed the tabletop and did a larger glass on top, and I have my beautiful Christoffel egg that we just love to present at dinner. because everyone is always wondering where's the silverware. But it's all here. There's an Ethan Cook piece of art here that my dealer sent over. It's not even a painting, it's actually hand-woven canvas to create this piece. Very modern, very minimal. My mom forced me to add color in the house, so this was the first injection of color. The light sculpture is a mobile by Angel Mombieru, who is also another Spanish designer, and it's a mobile inspired by Alexander Calder. As you could tell, I love Alexander Calder's work. There's also another mobile sitting here on this pedestal. And this is by Volta in Paris, which is also produced in Spain. For some reason, it seems as if I have a lot of Spanish creations in this house. But no, this is the dining room, and it's so simple and minimal. And I love a brutalist chair, so everyone makes fun of my chairs because they're really a work of art. They're like sculptures. And I like a chair that's a bit punishing, if I must say. So they're quite sturdy and hard, but I think it's the perfect touch for the dining room. And you sit upright in these chairs, which I love. Again, they're quite punishing, but a beautiful touch to a very modern and minimal, but cozy dining room. You know, for entertaining, I like to keep it quite simple. I don't like when things are too pretentious. So I don't need a massive ice bucket and the whole display. I like when you're comfortable in the space. Oftentimes you go to people's parties, you're nervous to sit somewhere, you're nervous to put a glass down somewhere. This is not the home for that. Here you really truly can just relax and enjoy the party. It's kind of a colonial style home. I live in this gated compound, and all the homes are these kind of a colonial Mac mini mansions, I guess. I think that's how people in Texas kind of lived. And I'm anti-colonial homes based on the fact that I'm from an English colony called Jamaica. So when you walk into the house, it's this beautiful modern delight. I like to call it a Gemini home because you get one thing 1 minute, and when you come over the other side, it's a complete different thing. So this is what I like to call a Gemini home. Well, I like to start with modern art. I'm obsessed with artists like Alexander Calder, Wassily Kandinsky, the Russian painter. So that always, sparks the inspiration for anything that I do in terms of design, whether it's jewelry or interior design. I love pops of color, although I don't wear color normally. I literally only wear black. I'm trying to even, spruce up my collection by putting on a blue denim because I'm literally in all black. When you see my closet, you'll understand. But my design style is truly just modern and comfortable. For me, comfort is so important because you go to some people's house and it's like a gallery. This house is so easy to live in because nothing is too precious. And I think when you live in a home, nothing should be too precious or untouchable. I grew up with a mother who wouldn't allow me to sit in one of the living rooms because she was like, no one goes here. This is only for special occasions. At this house, in this home, everything is just to be used and touched and to experience, from the art to the funky Turgay X-Storm chairs. It's truly my style. Again, simple but functional and hopefully timeless. Off the dining room is the living room. I'll take you there. Welcome to my living room. This space really is just impressive. It's this grand volume and just really collectible furniture. I've been collecting furniture for quite some time, and I did not have a space to put it. Luckily, I found the perfect home for all this great furniture. So this space was quite a challenge in the sense that because of its size, how could one make it intimate and warm at the same time? And I hope that I have accomplished that. We place the Le Corbusier chaise next to this fantastic light sculpture. And I adore this light sculpture by Nicolas Buffard because it looks as if the bulb is melting on the steel. Again, beautifully handmade in LA. I found this at Love House, New York, and just immediately had to have it. I believe they sold it to me off the floor. There's a Vladimir Kagan couch, which is sitting next to a Charlotte period pair of stools. Again, just archival, great furniture pieces that will stand the test of time. I've always wanted Nicholas Kagan couches because I used to watch him on First Dibs, so I'm always on the app looking and bidding. Been very fortunate to get 2 pieces in this house. I paint. Most people don't know that. So this piece I painted myself, and I thought it was the perfect accent to the home. Again, quite a dramatic scale, but it's perfect in this double height, with this double height ceiling. There's a French oak bench, which is heavy. That, again, another perfect piece in the living room. So you can sit here and have a really great glass of champagne. And I love that all the patina and the scratches are here on the bench, because I think it just gives it more character. A very good vintage find. When I bought this house, there wasn't a pool. And as I mentioned earlier, when I first opened the doors to this house, I knew immediately this was the house I wanted, because I could envision the pool in front of this stunning set of windows. And yeah, we built a pool. It was a nightmare to build a pool, but we finally finally did it. And it's the perfect accent to this living room. Now, the Turkey X-Storm chairs from 1980, a very impressive find. I found it from a dealer in Amsterdam. And normally they come in these funky colors of like reds and yellows and neon green. And the dealer was able to reupholster it for me here in black. And I know they look insane to sit on, but I tell you, they're so comfortable. Everybody comes over and they're nervous to sit on the furniture. I'm like, guys, really, just sit, because it's so comfy. And as I said, I encourage everybody to come here and like relax and have fun. And we have raves. Every Thanksgiving, we have raves, and you know, you can stand on the table because nothing is too precious here. Everything is livable. And that's the beauty about this living room. It's almost like a gallery, but it's a warm, friendly, fun gallery with really just fun furniture. And this is why I love this living room. So currently I'm working on my villa. I'm building a villa in Jamaica, I guess my home in Jamaica. And we're doing a lot of research on Oscar Niemeyer, because the house in Jamaica is also a brutalist minimalist home that I'm doing, but heavily influenced by the tropical climate. And Oscar Niemeyer is an idol in architecture. And yeah, we're doing loads of research on him. So in the house in Jamaica, we're planning to do a spiral staircase. And every day I come down, I manifest this spiral staircase, because I must have this spiral staircase. I must have, you know, this very Oscar Niemeyer-esque home. And I just love Brazilian architecture and furniture. And that's mostly what's sitting on my coffee table. And there's loads of jewelry books on the table as well. This is new, the Jamaica vibes, because I'm Jamaican and I love showing people my home, my culture, my country. So there's also loads of reads about Jamaica, because for me, it is paradise. There's also a Monopoly board on my desk, because my friends and I, we tend to love to just be kids all over again. And I found this years ago, actually at CB2, and it's all dusty at this point, but I, again, just love to have these kind of things on my coffee table, because it's friendly and it's warm, and you can really just interact with your guests when they're here. Again, loads of art books and jewelry books. This is one of my favorite jewelry designers from Turkey, Sevan Bikachki. And this is the kind of stuff I keep on my coffee table, you know. Yeah, this is kind of really it, you know, just stuff that inspires me. And when I sit here, I can always go through magazines and be inspired. I was doing my master's and I was like, why am I even in school? It's not my passion. And I was taking a bus I was modeling in New York, let me start there. So I was modeling in New York, finished the job, heading back to DC, and a guy saw me on the bus while I was reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The stranger grabbed the book out of my hand And I was like, what is going on? And handed me a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He said, read this book, it's going to change your life. It's literally that random. I never saw the guy again. So I read the book for about 2 months, and the book changed my life. I discovered that my burning desire or my burning passion was fine jewelry. And I went to 47th Street in New York and started making jewelry, and I never looked back. You know, I've been very fortunate. Rihanna was the first celebrity to wear a piece of mine. I woke up one morning and it says, Rihanna wears Matteo's zipper necklace. It was on Just Jared, if you remember what Just Jared is. And things just took off. We launched at Macy's, we launched at Nordstrom's, and things just continuously, just organically developed, because I never set out to have a jewelry brand. The goal was just to make really some jewelry for myself at first and see how it went, until a full business developed and formalized. And then American Vogue came along, French Vogue came along, and I was top 10 in the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund, and things just took off. So that kind of sums up my, my rise in fashion. And in 2019, I started researching more and more about interior design, and then that pivot over into interior design. And, I just fell in love with being creative in general. I think that's really just my passion, is just creativity. Off my living room is the kitchen. This is one of, well, I'm probably going to say this quite a bit, one of the most favorite rooms in the house, because I love to cook, and I cook every single day. So it's important to have a kitchen that is functional as well as beautiful. And I like to think this is the epitome of functionality and beauty. I changed the stone in this kitchen about 3 times. I think my contractor wanted to kill me after the last time. First we tried quartz, we tried Calcutta marble, still didn't feel right. My friend from Elle magazine, she was like, Google panda marble. Google panda marble, and I discovered this. Found a stone dealer here in Houston, and I begged and pleaded to get the last slabs of stone so we could wrap the island and the backsplash in this stunning marble. And what I love about this marble is that there's hints of gold running through the veins here. And again, being a jewelry designer, I love gold and I love a precious gemstone. So this to me just feels precious, although it's still functional. But it's so beautiful, and it's so soft and smooth and well polished and doesn't stain easily, which I love. I found this fantastic light fixture from Lumen, and what I love is this beautiful gold leaf finish in the inside of this dome. Again, I don't love a hood. I don't love a hood over a stove, personally. So this was the compromise. And again, just a beautiful kitchen. Kept the cupboards which were original to the house and did these beautiful brass finishes that we found from Rejuvenation. And again, just a fantastic touch. We added a wine fridge because we like our wine, although there's nothing there during the week because we don't drink during the week. So we try to not have any wine or champagne there. But no, this is the kitchen, and I absolutely adore this kitchen, and I spend a lot of time here. When I'm hosting people, it's always Jamaican food first. So we're doing a coconut curried shrimp. We're doing an oxtail. We're doing a rice and peas. We're doing a fried plantain. We're doing an escovitch fish. I am Jamaican, so you're always going to get the best Jamaican delights. I want you to always feel and taste a part of my home. So there's always Jamaican food in this kitchen. So when I bought this house, this kitchen was stuck in the very early 90s. There was a counter here with a bar. The island was so tiny, it was literally from here to there. We just knocked everything out and really opened up the kitchen. I think it's important that when you're entertaining, you should always be able to see your guest. And so we knocked everything out, expanded it, really opened up the space into the volume of the living room. And it's, again, an entertaining paradise, this kitchen. Because while the guests are sitting here drinking and laughing, you can also partake. So this kitchen is an entertainer's dream. On top of the island is this fantastic ceramic from Mexico. I have a fantastic dealer I cannot stop using the word fantastic because I do love the people that I work with here in Houston. He goes to Mexico and always brings back some of the best, ceramics that I can find. There's some by the pool, and there is also this piece here which I really, really love. And what I love is that the date is also here, and this is from 1870. I think it just adds some warmth to the kitchen. Plus, we add a bit of color with the green because, as you can tell, I love black and white. I think every kitchen should have a breakfast nook or a breakfast living room, I like to call this section. Again, another beautiful find from a vintage dealer in Chicago. I found a Vladimir Kagan. This is from the 1980s as well. I wanted to inject color in a meaningful way instead of plastering all the walls with a main color. I just felt as if art and furniture was the way to go. So this beautiful red just accents this black, white, and gold kitchen. I was in Botswana a few months ago, and I found this chief's chair, which I, again, love. They shipped it to me. I was on a trip with the Bears, and I went to the diamond mine, and one of the members from the mine took me to their local town, and I found this chief's chair. What I love is that there is a heart sitting down in the middle. And it's an interesting piece because it's two pieces in one. Let me move it here so you can see. Because if I pull, see that? It all lays flat. I have never seen that before. Had to have it, loved it. So this was my find from Botswana, and I want to thank the Botswanan people because this is actually genius. And I love a good chair. Love a good chair that is punishing and brutal but beautiful. And again, there's also a heart, so I love that. There's also some Houston art. I find it quite subversive and funny, but the perfect piece of art for the kitchen. It's by a local artist. Apparently he painted this while he was in prison. Don't know how, where he got oil paint from, but I thought it was quite, sensual, sexual, and charming, and the perfect piece of art again for a kitchen. I would love to show you the main bedroom, but before I do, I'd like to show you this gem of a powder room and my office. And welcome to the first floor powder room. This is my little, I like to call it the blue box. I love Yves Klein, and I love the Yves Klein blue, and we finally were able to get the perfect color. I think there's about 10 coats of paint on here, and many trips to Sherwin-Williams. They finally custom made the right blue for this room, and it's beautifully accented again with another Michael Anastasiades for floss light fixture. And again, we love a beauty mirror. My friends, they love Instagram and they love social media, so when they come here, this is their perfect way to do their little videos when they're visiting me. But a fantastic room. We love to bring in jewelry notes into the interior design space. So this room is almost this, it's like a gemstone, this beautiful lapis kind of a room. And we, again, adore this powder room. And most guests, they never want to go upstairs, which I love because I like the privacy. So this is perfect for them to use. Let's go take a peek in my office. Let's go. Welcome to my office. This is a space I use every single day. So for me, it's important that it's, number one, peaceful. Number two, functional. I always speak about functionality because I truly use every space in this house. Vintage French oak desk is really a dining table that we turn into the office desk because I love to just spread out while I'm working, because I'm sketching, I'm packing jewelry, I'm shipping, I'm doing all sorts of things. It's important to have just a really mass space. This photo of my best friend, Eugenia Washington, she's wearing her Baroque pearl earring, and I shot this myself actually. So I do some photography as well. And it's important to add all these personal touches to the space. So I'm very proud of this office because there's a mood as well with this photograph that I find quite beautiful. The two chairs for when my assistants are here. It's these Fade to Good rolly chairs from London. Again, really love, I think there's about 3 of them here in the house. I know they're a bit low, but they're so comfortable. Like you just sit in there and it's this cozy moment while you're working. I think you should be comfortable while you work. Why not? So, love these chairs. And again, love the desk, love the chips, love this beat up feel. Because again, nothing is too precious in this house. And we always have fresh flowers. But this is the office. This is where the magic happens for Matteo, New York. Well, everything in the house always ties back to jewelry. And I think you'll see that as we go through. When you come through the foyer, there is a fantastic light installation by Michael Anastasides, the Spanish lighting designer. And it looks like a chandelier airing, actually. So when you come through, you will see it. And it's also, this airing, or this light is also in my collection, my jewelry collection. And you tend to see a lot of jewelry notes in the house as well. There is a kind of a lapis blue powder room. In my house in Lisbon, there's an emerald green, a deep emerald green office there. In this house, there's also the black room, which represents the black onyx, the gemstone. And there's hints of, gold all over the house as well, which ties back into yellow gold. And I tend to wear quite a bit of yellow gold. So no, there's a lot of jewelry tied back into the house. For me, it's super important that, both marries each other because it is my daily life. And I also want to be inspired when I'm at home. And this house, I'm always inspired. Now I'll take you upstairs to see the main bedroom and the guest bedroom. Let's go. On the landing of the second floor, we have two really fantastic pieces of art. Art is so important to me. And then having black art is, again, super vital to my well-being as a creative. This piece is from an Italian painter who happens to be black, actually. He's Ethiopian and Italian. His name is Gem Pericini, and to me, it looks like a modern-day Renaissance painting. Absolutely love. He has grown tremendously over the past few years, and I've had this piece since 2020. This piece here is by Titus Kapoor that I got from Gagosian in New York City from the gallery, and it's from the Redactive series, and it's about Ferguson. Again, very strong and powerful piece of art. I'll take you inside the bedroom. My bedroom is a place of, honestly, peace and serenity, because being an entrepreneur, you're always stressed, you're always overwhelmed. So I like that when I come to the bedroom, it should almost be like a spa. So here we have a cloud bed from Restoration Hardware. And I know everyone's probably tired of the cloud series, but this bed, honestly, you lay down, off in the clouds. Really fantastic. And I paired two solid marble side tables and these Atolo lamps in the brass, which I really just love. Again, anything with a bit of gold, anything with a bit of jewelry, I just love these little touches in the house. The artwork is a water painting by Pepe Mouzon. He is or was Celine Dion's stylist, and he hand painted that for me during the Black Lives Matter movement. And I thought that was so sweet of him. And it's sitting right here in my bedroom. I have a Linéa Rosé Togo. This I snatched from the other set in Lisbon, because in Lisbon I have the full set out in the house there, and I stole one piece to go here. And I sit here and I read, and I have coffee in the morning. And we also have a built-in coffee station here in the bedroom, because I hate having to walk downstairs in the morning for coffee. And yeah, this is my bedroom. Very simple. We just added the Noguchi lamp that I bought in Tokyo, because I love to also incorporate things that I get on my travels. But this room is simply just beautiful. What I love most about this home is that it's peaceful. I love that you can sit here and there's the calmest silence, if there's such a way of describing it, that runs through this house. It's soothing. This place also just hugs you, and that's what I love this house. I'll take you to the master bath and closet. This bathroom, again, is very spa-like. I keep the emphasis on things being spa-like on the second floor because downstairs is so much of a gallery. This is this cozy, warm, central space that you just want to, number one, lay in a bathtub and have a glass of champagne. You know, take a really long hot bath in the steam shower. We really kept everything super simple. Did these beautiful slate floors with this beautiful textured finish that we love, with these beautiful chrome finishes. There's a piece of art here by a Philadelphian artist by the name of Shakeith, who finished his studies at Yale University. And this was actually my very first piece of art I've ever bought. Fantastic artist, and was very grateful to acquire his piece when I was 30. So there's a special emotional connection to this. And I'll take you inside of the closet. I mentioned I only wear black. So don't be alarmed when you come in. There's literally only black in this closet. And there's a massive collection of Hermes that I've been collecting for ages. So yeah, it's just black and Hermes and vintage watches. And I literally, my mom forced me to have a few white shirts. She's like, you're not going to a funeral, you must have some color. And for me, there's one color in here. And it's like this Comme des Garçons shirt that I wear to the beach. Beyond that, everything is literally black. And I collect some vintage watches. And yeah, I love black. You know, I think black is sexy, it's powerful, but it's also quiet. It's also bold, but it's also humble. Does that make any sense? This is the beauty about black. And then you look timeless, and you're always chic. I love a good dinner watch. So I have a collection of dinner watches, actually. This is a vintage Cartier, I believe it's from 1969. And it has a double bezel. Found this in Paris, off Rue de Rivoli. And hustled the woman that was selling it. I paid nothing for this Cartier watch. I think I paid like 3,500 euros, if I can say that. Very good steal. I have a Norwegian friend, and he takes me to another dealer in Paris as well. This is a vintage Vacheron, and I love to wear this to dinner. Nothing like a clean button down and a chic watch. Again, timeless, sexy, and decadent. The last room I'll show you on this floor is the guest bedroom. And welcome to the guest bedroom. This room, again, is very spa-like. I know you'll be tired of this word, this phrase by the time I'm done. But this room, warm and very cozy with little touches of modernism here. This beautiful mirror that I got from Canada. It's all made of concrete and has this beautiful marbleized finish. Another Fairgood Rolly chair. This beautiful vase which was gifted to me from a friend Melody, and I believe it's from Adam. See, forgot the name. Anyway, I should remember. It was a gift. What is wrong with me? Oh, it's Jonathan Adler. God damn it. Anyway, so yeah, that's how I got this. That's how I got this vase. A friend gifted that to me as a housewarming gift. I have some family portraits in here. That's my dad with his first Cadillac. He liked to tell me he was the first person with a Cadillac in Jamaica. And this is me at my christening. Restoration hardware bed and beautiful Belgian linen. And this beautiful lamp that I got from Lulu and Georgia. So that was some online shopping that was done well, because I really love these lamps. They're very heavy. So solid marble and the Stingray side tables that I absolutely just love the texture. I love anything that's like tactile and has a really rich finish. And yeah, this is the guest bedroom. I try not to make it too comfortable because I don't want my guests to stay that long. But they really, really just love this room. And again, this room is like a warm hug. And it's right off the yoga studio. So there's this beautiful combination of fitness on this side of the house and comfort. What makes it come alive? God, I think it's how you live in it that makes it come alive. And I think it's so important to truly just love being home. Especially after COVID, home has become such an integral part in so many people's lives. And I think truly living in your home is of utmost importance for a house to come alive. To me, home means a peaceful sanctuary.
Hi, Homeworthy. This is Natalie. Welcome to my home in Houston. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Natalie Stean, and we are in my home in Houston, Texas. So I'm the Natalie behind the Not Note, which is a shopping newsletter that I started back in 2017. It was actually, I started it a couple months into practicing law. And it started as a creative, little side venture. Mostly because I was practicing corporate law at a law firm here in Houston and just had a lot of time in front of a computer screen. So I would open up some shopping tabs, and those shopping tabs turned into emails or messages to friends saying like, you should get this. I know you have a wedding coming up. You should get this. And thankfully it kind of snowballed into what it is today. And now I work as doing that. I'm also as a creative consultant, and I partner with brands and retailers regularly on, anything from a promotional event to product launches, which is really exciting. But it all kind of began, oddly enough, after I had worked for Teach for America here in Houston, and after I had gone to Penn Law School. And once I actually, was at a desk job working, because I needed kind of that, okay, now you're strapped in, this is what you're gonna be doing, and you're in front of a computer screen. And so it was very, I guess, like fortuitous the way it all came about. But I come from a family of lawyers. My dad is still practicing. He's a lawyer in Miami. My mom is a federal judge, and they are both, first generation Cuban Americans. So there was really no choice for this oldest of three but to go to law school. Even though now I think anyone who meets me when they hear I was a lawyer is like, what? Why would you do that? Something I love the most about this home is its history. It indirectly, inadvertently, I guess, has been in our family for longer than we have lived in it, because before we moved in, it was another family, but before that family were in-laws of ours on my husband's side. And so I remember visiting this house, even though it looked, totally different. When I was in a totally different stage of life, I was still in law school, kind of visiting from Philadelphia, and I'd come in and I'd visit with my niece who was just born, who's now 8 years old. And so when we were in the market for a home, we kind of didn't even consider this one. But then kind of through interesting circumstances remembered like, oh yeah, that is still an option. And so when we came into the house, we kind of purchased the house while there were still, took over as landlord, so to say. And the current tenant of the house, because they were just leasing, had taken a number to the walls. And so it was almost like an invitation for us to come in and make it ours. And that was very important to me because we have a very close-knit family. And so I just wanted people to come in and, I still hold the memories dear of when it wasn't ours, but, still was in the family, but I wanted it to be ours. So it's almost ranch style because there is an upstairs that's just the master suite. But it went from originally being a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom house in 1951 to now being a 5-bathroom, 6-bedroom house. So I can't wait to show it to you. Okay, so this is the entrance of the home, which is mini but mighty. We wanted it to kind of give a fun but accurate first impression for what you're gonna see as the home continues. So we picked a fun wallpaper by Brunswick & Fees, Gatami, and we have this little moment going on here. We needed to find a table that was kind of narrow enough for this space, and we landed on this find from a local Houston vintage store that sold this table that was in its former life a pastry display table at a hotel in Paris, which is kind of fun. And above it is this mirror by Fleur Mirror, which I think kind of jives with the wallpaper, as does these Grace Weaver pieces that I had won on auction, and they came kind of all together. But I found these frames from Apron Art, who's a UK designer that designs, he kind of specializes in small size framing. So like perfect for postcards or pictures. And he makes really funky frames. And I just think kind of like the triangles on the frames, the spikes on the wallpaper, the spikes on the mirror, they all jive together in a fun way. And here we have 2 portraits of my husband's maternal grandparents that kind of welcome you to the home. So from the entryway, we make our way into the formal living room, otherwise known as the pink room. So this room might be my favorite in the whole house. I worked with the designer, Lila Malone, who's based in San Antonio, when we moved in the house, because it kind of felt like our first big project, and I had a lot of ideas, and I needed someone who, had expertise and wisdom and was willing to work with a client with a lot of ideas, which is not everybody. And Lila and I had so much fun together. It really felt like creative fireworks. We would be so giddy whenever we would meet and see the house come together. And it was just such a fun process. But she really helped me make sense of, a lot of the pieces in this room that we had in our old house, and how we can make it work all together. A little on the paint. The paint, one of the most important things Lila taught me from working with her is that, you may hear about a color pink that is the best color pink, according to people. But that is also dependent on a space and the lighting in a space. And so people all the time will ask me, what is this color on your wall? The answer is Benjamin Moore milkshake, but with a qualifier. That Benjamin Moore milkshake will look like this in my house, but it may not look like this in another room in my house because it's so dependent on lighting. So Lila and I kind of went through the exercise of going through all these pinks to find the perfect shade of pink. I think we found it. I think we landed on it. Feel confident about it. And it is a, high gloss lacquer. And when we moved into this house, this room was the one that required the many, many coats of paint. And my husband was kind of stressed out at the idea of, just decorating a full home. And so he was kind of like, just don't talk to me about it. I'd rather not know, were his words. And so when we were moving in, he's like, what's going on in this room? Like, there's an exhaust pipe coming out of it. Like, what is happening? I'm like, it's just paint. He was like, no, because they're painting the rest of our house too. And then for the grand reveal, he kind of looked at me and was like, a pink living room. And I think he's come around. I will say that all his friends that come over love the pink living room. At the time, I had 2 boys and had no plans, of having a girl. I thought my body was incapable of having a girl after 2 boys. And so my kind of justification was I deserve a pink room as a mom of boys. Now I have my girl, but we still got our pink room. So I kind of got my way with it. But the color to me kind of resembles like the inside of a seashell. The light bounces off of it. Christmas in here is magical because we put our tree by the window and the lights will reflect off the walls. And at night, it's just like very inviting. People that come in just want to sit down, kind of have a cocktail and hang around. So I grew up in Miami, born and raised in Coral Gables, Florida. I ended up in Houston through my husband, who I met undergrad at the University of Virginia. And we met our first year there. and he is, I believe, 7th generation Texan, so it wasn't a hard call on kind of who had more sway and where we were going to end up, since I am, I guess, 2nd generation American, because my family is 100% Cuban. My dad was born in Havana. My mom was born in the US right when her parents came from Cuba. And so I grew up, like I said, in Miami with this very rich Cuban American upbringing. I met my husband at UVA, who is Texan, very rich Texan upbringing. And when we graduated, we moved to Houston, mostly for work opportunities. I was trying to put off the inevitable law school move. And so I actually did teach for America in Houston for 2 years before moving to Philadelphia, and I went to Penn for law school. But all that time, my husband stayed here, and so we ended up here. I miss Miami all the time. My parents still live in Miami. My best friends, a lot of them are in Miami. I miss the Cuban food. I miss, I mean, it's home to me still, but luckily, since my parents still live there, we get to visit quite often, especially during the summers. I have 3 young kids that love going over there and spending a good chunk of the summer over there. So I miss it all the time, and I think that will kind of come through as we walk through my house, because I am kind of, I like to call this house a blend of my Miami and my husband's Texas. I hope I've done a good job of kind of blending that together, because it's really hard for me to describe the style of my interiors. It's really all over the place in my mind, and things come from all over the place, but they all share, for me, the commonality they all share is that they all have the same, they check my box, I guess, and my box is checked when something is special or meaningful or, you know, tied back to who I am, who my husband is, who our family is. When I thought of how I wanted to, you know, have this room feel and look like, I just wanted people to walk into our house and kind of know, like, okay, now I'm in Natalie's house. And I think it does achieve that goal. We have a lot of fun things in here. As far as furniture goes, it is a mix of kind of new and old. The sofa was custom, but the side chairs and the side tables are all either auction finds, or actually these chairs I fell in love with on an Instagram account called Shop Vintage Dallas. And they needed definitely, you know, some reupholstery. But a lot of things have kind of come about like that, you know, just scrolling through Instagram or live auctioneers. Fun story about these striped ottomans was that we had these in our previous home. I just found the fabric myself and loved them and had them made custom here in Houston. And so when I'm working with Lila, we came up with this idea for the window treatment to kind of mirror them, which is definitely a fun element in here. This little checkerboard table isn't really anything special, like, you know, but it kind of is at the same time, because this I found at an estate sale on our block the year we moved in, and that was the house that was the same kind of, I think at one point in the 50s, this whole block was lined with like the same kind of cookie cutter house. And most of them have been knocked down and rebuilt. But this one remained and was just added onto and added onto. And so when I walked in that house, I saw the history of this house, kind of same layout had it not been added onto. It was kind of stuck in the 1950s. But I found this checkerboard table that opens up and it's a music table. You can like wind it like a music box. And so I got that because I was like, you know, this is kind of a relic of the original street. And so I like, you know, having things like that have an interesting history and story behind them. The drapery is a moment. And the drapery was something that Lila, you know, it was an idea that Lila was able to wave her magic wand and realize. And I think for me, it was such a learning experience. It was the first time I had ever worked with an interior designer. And, you know, things like this are testament to their incredible talent, because you can kind of take out a piece of paper and draw it out and say, like, I have this vision of these window treatments that match the ottomans that kind of frame the room. But, you know, how do you get from there to the finish line? And for me, it was through Lila and through a lot of hand-holding and, you know, the amazing resources that she has available to her with her team. But yeah, it's definitely a moment. This rug, it's by Campbell Ray in Nordic Knots, and I just love it. When I found it, this was, I think, maybe even the last piece of this whole room to kind of come together. And when I showed it to Lila, I was like, too much? And she's like, is that even a question for you? And so we did it, and I love how it looks in here. They have a wonderful array of rug options in that collection. And obviously in this room, like the art stands out, and I'm lucky enough to have a sister-in-law, Isla Gaunt, who has a company, IG Art. She's a fabulous art advisor who has helped us not only develop our collection, but really develop an appreciation for contemporary art. And so all the art, you know, all if not most of the art in this house has had her blessing or her involvement in some way. So I cannot take credit for that. I'm just very appreciative for it, because the art obviously is kind of takes center stage in here. And like, for example, I went to Art Basel with her in December, and I found this David Shrigley piece that, you know, just immediately made me giggle, because it is kind of sums up my husband and I's sense of humor. And so that's kind of a recent addition. But underneath it is a fun piece that's also a conversation starter, and it's a little mushroom ottoman made by Sylvia Fermanovich. And this is kind of where my world of fashion and shopping and interiors come together, because she's most well known. She's a Brazilian designer who's most well known for her jewelry and handbags that are all made, you know, in this technique of marquetry. And she came out with I think she quietly came out with it, because I think what takes center stage for her are the jewelry and the handbags. But this home line, and when I saw the mushroom, I just had to have it. And then it's surrounded by these two chairs, very groovy chairs that I found on Cherish, that were vintage and just got a second life with some new upholstery. A little more on the art in the room. Above the fireplace is this piece by Kelly O'Connor. She is a artist that's based in San Antonio, and her pieces are amazing. But this piece in particular we commissioned because it is a place that I grew up visiting in Coral Gables as a young girl, the Venetian pool. And so she made that, and it's, you know, obviously an eye-catching piece, but it also has special meaning for me. Another fun piece that Kelly made that's in this room is this wasp nest. She'll take wasp nests and she'll bejewel them, and which is kind of funny. But, you know, people have come in, more than one person has come in and been like, Natalie, you have a wasp nest in your house. I'm like, I have to be like, it's art. But it is definitely another conversation starter when people think you have a real wasp nest in your house. I guess a more modern take on a portrait, you know, than the traditional ones we have in our entry, but is very special nonetheless. It's a picture of my grandmother, and this piece was made by a company called Sarah's Bag, and they employ female prisoners, former prisoners in Lebanon, and they teach them the craft of hand embroidery. And so I kind of sent in a photo of my grandmother, and they sent this back. And I just think it's such a cool, you know, company, and their mission of, you know, employing meaningful employment opportunities to women who desperately need it. I also think it's cool to have, you know, a different take on a portrait, especially because, like I said earlier, my family is from Cuba on both sides. And, you know, when they came to the United States, they really couldn't bring that much with them. So we don't have, they couldn't bring your traditional heirlooms. And so, like there weren't portraits that were, packed in the suitcases with them. And so I kind of enjoy creating my own modern day heirloom that kind of ties back to my family with the idea that one day it'll be passed down to my family too. I think when it comes to finding the tie between all the colors that are at play in the room, it's about, I kind of feel the same when I put together an outfit. Like you take out a piece, look at what you're working with, put in the piece, look at what you're working with. Does it, detract? Does it make it an eyesore? Do they communicate with each other in an interesting way? And kind of having that visual exercise, I think that's how I go about it. And then I also have Lila telling me like that, go for it, or be careful with that one, or why don't we try this fabric instead? That's always really helpful. But, inevitably I'll stumble upon something like this little footstool I found at a store here in Houston called Found Houston. And it kind of had a lot of the colors in this room already. And I was like, that room has enough color, but I just love it. So I'm going to put it in this room. I think ultimately it comes down to what you love and what makes, the room happy. And I hope I've achieved it in here. For me, it certainly feels like I've achieved it in here. When I have girlfriends over, this is a room where we just want to sit, have a cocktail, talk, and feel like, we can look around us and have some eye candy to snack on, if that makes sense. There's elements in this room too that not everything can be super special, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And so this bar is from CB2, but I just found it a few years ago when we were still in our old house, and I loved the details on it. And I said, okay, I want this one to be a part of the mix. It's right next to these Asian style side tables that I found on Live Auctioneers. And, I don't think these two styles, if you put them together, would be necessarily under the same genre, but I think that makes a room definitely more interesting. Something to note on this table is this little lamp that we have made out of a champagne bottle. And this is actually a champagne bottle that we opened the night that my husband and I were engaged. And to make this happen, all I had to do was get on Etsy, because there's a lot of, Etsy users that sell lamps made out of bottles, and send a direct message to one of them and say, hey, I have my own bottle. Can I send it to you so you can make it into a lamp? But that's a fun piece. And I think, going back to something I said earlier about my kids, this is definitely the most precious room in the house, in the sense that there are the most kind of breakables in here. But, when they do come in here, there are things that are important to their story that we can talk to them about, that they can be genuinely interested in, like, oh, your mom and dad, or your great grandmother on the wall. And so that's always fun too. I think most important of all, leaving the practice of law and focusing on the Nat Note full time has allowed me to really be present for my 3 kids. I have a 5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a newly 1-year-old. I didn't leave the law firm until having my second. And, there's only so many balls in the air that you can keep on constant rotation. And from going from a mother of 1 to a mother of 2, it just became like something's got to go. And for me, it was the law. But now, the flexibility I have, since I'm working for myself, I work from home. I'm able to be here for my kids, while I'm working. I can hear them playing in the playroom. They come in, they come out. I pick them up at school. I am able to be the mom that I always wanted to be. And I remember being at the law firm, just wondering, and I remember it was I don't know why it was such a big deal for me, but I told my husband, I was like, I want to be the one that picks him up from school. My mom couldn't pick me up from school because she's a federal judge, and that was just a big deal for me. And he didn't quite get it. He was like, who cares? People hate carpool, but I'm able to pick up my kids from school, and that's, I think, like one of the things I'm most proud of, for sure. What makes a home come alive? For me, I'm in a very specific stage of life. So when I open the door and I can hear laughing or even screaming, my house is alive. My house is filled with 3 little kids, a baby really, and 2 young boys, and they are the soul of this house. And so even though, I kind of took the reins with making the design decisions, ultimately it's their house. And my husband and I kind of keep that front of mind, front and center, because even a room like this where there are breakables, there's just, people come in my house and they're like, how do you have this room with 2 boys? But we've created spaces for them in this house that are theirs, that they know are theirs, they're more comfortable. For here, it's honestly boring. There's nothing for them here. My middle son, George, will kind of find my tchotchkes and hide them, which I feel like is an inside joke that he's playing with me, even though he's only 2.5. But even the art in these rooms, I think, tells a story that's mainly for them, because my husband and I know this story, but they're still learning. They have young eyes that kind of soak in everything. And I think, even my 5-year-old who's older and can express his thoughts, he's developing, he's able to articulate, how a room looks like, how it makes him feel. And ultimately, though, I think the most important thing is that this house is going to be like the background of a lot of their memories. And that for me is huge, because childhood memories, these wonder years where they're kind of soaking everything in. For me, it's important that, as the reel's playing through their head 20, 30 years from now, they can remember this house in Houston and be like, yeah, that was happy. So from the living room, we can enter the dining room, which I'd love to show you. Here we are in the dining room. This is another favorite in the house. And I feel like in my line of business, I kind of do as much hosting and entertaining as I do talking or posting pictures about it. So this dining room does get a lot of love. It's, kind of framed around this burl wood table from the Collective in Dallas. What I love about this table is that, throw a tablecloth over it, but it is, beautiful enough to kind of stand on its own too. And I set the table with, some of my favorite pieces that, just as whether it's an outfit, whether it's a room, the way you kind of blend pieces together that are meaningful and tell a story is kind of my jam. So I have some wedding china that, we can never allow to gather dust, paired with some placemats from my good friend CC Barfield Thompson. These cups I found on Cherish. There's some 1970s Carlo Moretti. And then these beautiful Murano glasses are actually an Instagram find. I found a woman who does some lovely hand-blown Murano glasses. And through some, Google translations, we made it happen. And, for florals, I kind of went simple this time around. These tulips are in a gem vase by John Toriano, who's an artist. And I actually have 2 of his other gem pieces in the living room. So I like kind of how that conversation continues into this room. Which is all in, it's covered in wallpaper by Lee Joffa and Oscar de la Renta, Samira, which is one of my favorites. And I think the art does all the talking in here. We have a big hand piece that you see when you enter by an artist, Adelaide Sioni. And it's kind of fun because, throughout an evening, whoever's sitting in the lucky chair can kind of look like the hand is plucking them away. And we also have this piece by Michael Lombardi, which was actually a birthday gift. So this is the most recent addition in here. And it's of a rodeo shirt, which is very apropos since it's almost rodeo season in Houston. And over here we have a piece by Grace Weaver, who also had those pieces in the entry. So again, continuing the conversation. And this one is called Girl with Flan. And flan is a very traditional Cuban dessert. So actually, this is a great example of how, I do try to kind of tie it back to everything, right? Like to our family and our family story. And so a Cuban girl finds a Texas boy, and I guess the rest is history. This is one of many storage for and china and glassware. So this one has glassware that actually once belonged to my husband's grandmother, whose name was Nell Stean, and now we have a 1-year-old whose name is Nell Stean. So that's special, certainly, to be able to have these here. But I'm telling you, if you just open drawers in my house, what you will find is glassware. You probably won't be able to find a paper towel, but you will find a vintage cocktail glass. So this little moment in the dining room, we have some new, some old, but of special significance, I guess you would say, are these heron peacocks, which were our wedding cake topper, which I think is, says it all. The way I get ready when I'm hosting is to outsource. I try to follow, the recommended advice of be a guest at your own party. And, it's not a secret, but for anyone who ever asks me, like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, one thing I cannot do is cook anything, like truly anything. And so if I'm hosting and there's food involved, bring in a caterer. If I'm hosting and there's going to be a lot of beverages involved, bring in a bartender. I just kind of rely on the help of those who do it best. And that way I can focus on what I really enjoy about hosting, which is setting the table, getting dressed, and having fun. Tip for hosting, I love kind of bringing in something surprising. And one of the ways I've done that has either been with, with dessert, bring out some wigs, because by that point, hopefully your guests have had enough cocktails that they're willing to play along, or actually something that was inspired by my parents. As one time I hosted a dinner party and I had a caricature artist here doing everyone's caricatures while they ate. So then around like the end of the night dessert, we can kind of bring them out and laugh at them. And that was inspired by a dinner party my parents went to where they had something similar. I think it was in Italy, and I actually have those caricatures framed of them in our bar because they're just so hilarious. An activity that's not an activity, and then hopefully like is the adult version of a goodie bag, right? Like you get to leave with something other than just like a full tummy and a maybe possible hangover. Okay, so now we can make our way from the front of the house to the middle part and see the family room, which is over here. So here's our family room. I made up for my pink room with a blue room. We spend a lot of time in here with our 3 young kids. And this one, this room, I feel like really speaks to my love of layers and layers and layers. We have layers of photos, we have layers of books, we have layers of patterns on the pillows, we have layers of art, and it's just a happy, bright room. We have our little bar area, which I think most of the stories that I can share are over here. I had these made by a paper company, Parvum Opus, and they're supposed to be modeled after Venetian Moors. My husband and I got married at Vizcaya in Miami, And actually here's a painting of our wedding venue done by Kristen Moore. And you can see the Venetian Moors, and these were meant to kind of resemble those. There's a lot of vintage on the bar. There's a lot of new things. One of the things that is most near and dear to me is this collection of cocktail stirrers, these swizzle sticks. My father, when he came from Cuba, and when he was, a little out of high school, he used his draft card to make a fake ID. And he started out as a bartender, and then he became a DJ and a nightclub owner. And a lot of these are from that heyday before he became a very serious partner that doesn't break the law. And so those are fun to look at. This is something else that's really pretty fun. I found this, I think on Etsy or eBay, but this is just a fun party trick. It's a Moet bottle that you pull out, and you can put your cigarettes in there for some after dinner fun. This little lamp, there's a thrifting area in Miami called Flamingo Plaza, and I found this little brass lamp for I think $2. I got it rewired, and I added this little lampshade from Pookie Lighting in the UK, and I feel like it adds such a moment. So I'm proud of that one. These are the caricatures I was talking about that inspired the caricature artist at my recent dinner party. And it's actually it's pretty funny. They did my dad shaking his pepper grinder on the food, and then they did my mom laughing at my dad's caricature, which is pretty funny. The built-ins continue. We have a lot of family photos. My husband and I met, when we met I was 17. And so we've known each other for a bit. I am 34 now, so I feel like we just hit half our life marker. So there's a lot of photos together. And so I'm one of those, bring out the family photos type of people. And so those continue on to here. And actually, speaking of wedding cake toppers, these were on the layers of the cake, these little oranges with the peacocks I showed y'all earlier, which were meant to symbolize like me being from Miami and my husband's side of the family kind of being in, part of their business is orange groves. So these sofas are great because the print on them means that when there's, apple juice spilling and other, no-nos that come from having two young boys, they're not as noticeable. Don't give me that much heartache. And then on this little table, we have some more family photos. Actually, this is a fun photo of my mother-in-law, my husband's mom. And this is a photo taken by Slim Aarons, which is pretty cool. And so we have that next to our photos of our kids. And then behind it is a lampshade that actually came from my good friend, Rebecca Gardner's tent at Round Top. She kind of created a magical circus tent full of her houses and parties accoutrement, and I needed a souvenir from that time since we had such a ball, and that's from her. This is a cool piece by Derek Velasquez that he makes using these strips of vinyl, and just adds like a very colorful, happy moment. This piece is by Natalia Huncadella, who is actually from Miami, and someone I would say that was a friend of friends of friends. And so again, every kind of piece of art in our house has been blessed by our sister-in-law, Isla, and my husband and Isla worked together to surprise me on it. And little did they know, I was like, oh, I know her. So always happy to support a Miami girl. I struggle with how to describe my style just because it can be a lot of things all at once. So there are traditional elements that I appreciate and incorporate, but I certainly wouldn't call myself a traditionalist. I think probably a maximalist would be more accurate. And under that big umbrella, I'm bringing in color, I'm bringing in pattern. I really am drawn to beautiful fabrics and textiles. I love kind of the UK, how they decorate over there, and I'm very inspired by their interiors and kind of try to borrow. what I really feel strongly about is not copy pasting, because, you know, there's so much inspiration and beauty in the world of interiors. Something I love is that when people come into my house, you know, they come into kind of a lot and they'll just say like, this is so Natalie, you know, without reducing that to adjectives or like qualifying words that are readily available. They'll just know. And so to me, the ultimate compliment is when I have friends or people who are traveling and they'll send me a picture of a space, whether it's like a hotel lobby or a room somewhere, and they'll say, this is so you, because that means that whatever I'm kind of putting out there is, they understand it and they get it, even if we can't share, you know, agree on the perfect way to describe it. So I'd love to show you a fun powder room we have that's just off of the family room. Here we are in one of the powder rooms. This one came together as a lot of things in my life come together. I saw Lila post this fabric, this Morris & Co fabric, and I was like, okay, what are we gonna do with this? Because I need it in my life. And she came up with this really fun idea to create this valance shower curtain, and we paired it with this wallpaper from Sybil Home. And it's just a very happy, it kind of reminds me of a 70s little bathroom. We had this mirror from Bungalow Home in our old home that we use like in the entry that we just kind of flipped on its side. And it's definitely a moment. This piece is by Donald Roller Wilson, and this is actually a letter he left with like some powder room, you know, companions for someone who had hosted him as a thank you note, and it's pretty funny. And then here we have a little bit more modern, this ceramic piece that has, it's like meant to be a plate after a birthday party. So it's fun. So this is the beginning of the house, and something kind of interesting to note is here on this wall was kind of marks where the original 1951 version of the house ended, but previous owners kind of kept adding on and adding on. So I'd love to show you the rest of it. So we go down this hallway, which is another kind of fun moment. We have this console table. Underneath it are some ottomans, some Milo Bachmann for Thayer Coggin ottomans in a really pretty orange color that I found from Moonpool Modern, which is a very cool company here in Houston. And above, our piece of art here is actually a needlepoint canvas created by Hunt and Hope. They're in the UK. They are incredible. I've also used them to make pillows for all of my kids. But for this, I made a piece for my husband. It's a quote from, you know, one of his greats. And the way they did it, just in this very modern, colorful way, it's just so fun. So on either side of the needlepoint, we have these little lamps with lampshades from Alice Palmer, who's another UK find. And they just add a lot of fun and color to an otherwise white hallway. My love of fashion, you know, was always there. There was no moment where it kind of, I can look back and be like, it was born on this day. But I think it's like something my mom says about me, which I think kind of says it all, is that she'll say, Natalie, it's incredible to me because when we were in high school, the one thing we thought about was how much shopping you did and how your closet was just full of things that had tags on them, things you hadn't worn yet. And somehow you've like managed to make a living out of this problem that you have. Because it is a problem. You'll see my closets, it's a problem. It's a solution to a problem. She's like, yeah, I'm so proud of you, because there is a lot, you know, leaving the practice of law to focus on this full time was a process. And I practiced for about 5-6 years before I did so. But there was a lot of kind of letting go of like, am I disappointing, you know, I'm the oldest of 3, I'm a Capricorn. So I was like, am I disappointing my parents? Am I disappointing me? Am I disappointing the people I work for? But it is truly a devotion, and I think I have found kind of my workaround to being, I wouldn't say I'm a hoarder of clothing. I hold on to emotional things. Then you'll see my closet shortly and you'll realize, like, yeah, she has a lot of emotions. I would definitely say that there's parallels between the way I approach filling and decorating a space and getting dressed and shopping. I am naturally drawn to things that catch my eye, and what catches my eye is usually a vibrant color or print or texture, something that's interesting, something that kind of makes me go like, ooh, what's that? But above all, I really like things that tell a story. And I think when it comes to dressing, that might be a vintage item or something you had custom made. I think the same can be said for interiors. I think a lot of the interesting pieces in a home have had past lives. I think there is definitely room for things that are more modern and contemporary, but at the end of the day, you put together an outfit, you put together a room, you just want it to really jive together. And I think I can see there's just a lot of parallels between the both of them. Right off the hallway is Nat Note HQ. So why don't you follow me and I'll show you. Okay, so this is my office, my home office. When it came to deciding how I wanted to decorate it, I kind of took a similar approach as I did when I got to college, which is to say I went to Catholic private school my whole life and had to wear a uniform. And when I got to UVA and got to dress however I wanted for school, I just kind of went crazy. And in a similar vein, so I kind of went crazy in here, but it's fun and it's happy. And Lila and I picked this green color. We kind of went off the wallpaper, this Autoline tulip wallpaper, and played with the colors that gave us. One fun thing to note was this originally was, or not originally, but at one point was my niece's like childhood bedroom, or like when she was a toddler. And so I kept the window treatments and this little banquette from her, which is kind of funny how it just kind of came full circle. Like the people who moved in after them never changed it, and I didn't feel like I had to change it either. And so my husband gifted me this lovely monitor, and this is where the Nat Notes come together. And if you are ever on a Zoom call with me, you'll probably have this as the background. But it's a small special space. I have this little swivel chair from Coley Home in the corner with this needlepoint pillow that Lisette Designs and I did, inspired by a pillow that I saw at Sunnylands in Palm Springs. It has a nice reminder to just take it easy, which I often, need to be reminded of. Over here, this is a fun piece I found on Live Auctioneers, which is an Italian bar cabinet from, I want to say like 1970s. And on one side, there's storage, there's drawers that I use for storage. But on the other side is my kind of Mad Men, wannabe bar. I can't say that I'm making martinis in here, but maybe one day. Maybe one day. My kids love kind of playing with the little keys, so for now it's very PG in there. And on top of it, we have this mushroom lamp from an artist named Matthias McGrath. He makes these really cool, lamps that are also pieces of art. But here is where the magic happens, as they say. In the corner, I have this screen that's since become kind of a bulletin board of sorts, where I keep mementos. And this has just become kind of the office that I always dreamed of having while, being in an office that looked nothing like this. Okay, before we leave, may want to peek into this little powder room, which also is pretty fun because we used wallpaper also from Sybil Home, and another awesome floor mirror. Everything I need in here, and on the other side of the powder room is my husband's office, but that also connects to the playroom. And so this is the preferred route my boys take to check in on mom when she's working, and they kind of love doing these laps around the house where they'll just emerge unexpectedly, usually with a Ninja Turtles costume on. And so next I'd love to show you another addition to the house, which is the primary suite upstairs, which is over here. So really quickly before we head upstairs, I wanted to show you these pieces, which are commissioned of my sons. I did those both when they turned 2, so baby girls will come next year. But this is by an artist, Sarah Beth Arima, who creates these multi-layer collages that are entirely based on symbolism. And so you kind of send in your photo and you fill out a questionnaire about your child and what he likes, what he doesn't like, and you as a couple, you as a family. And she kind of pulls elements from that that are symbolic, and she creates these beautiful pieces. So definitely worth knowing about. Okay, so let's head upstairs. So welcome to the master bedroom. This is the only room we have upstairs. It's kind of towards the back of the house. And Lila and I kind of decided to wallpaper it all in this raffia and make it kind of feel like a oasis treehouse situation. We still leaned heavily into colors. And I just love how all these different prints and fabrics and textiles come together and kind of have a party up here. And so obviously we're leaning heavy on the blues and the reds, but we also have browns and yellows. And I just love how it all works together. Sister Parish fabric on the curtains and on the bench, and also on this knoll sofa, which definitely has a story, has some skeletons in its closet, because I found this one kind of sight unseen, or I should probably say smells unsmelt, on Live Auctioneers. And when it showed up, it smelled like something or someone had, I'm just going to say, it smelled like urine. It was disgusting. We're like, my husband was like, what have you done this time, Natalie? And I asked Lila, I'm like, can we save it? I just think it's so cool. And she was like, we could definitely save it. So we saved it, and we recovered it in this Sister Parish performance fabric, added a trim to it. I had found these pillows in Santa Barbara. And then this kind of just became its own little moment. This diptyque is by Layla Luna that we had in our old home in our dining room. And so what I really liked about moving to this house is taking elements from different rooms and bringing them into different rooms. On the flip side, this little coffee table is from KRB in New York. The bedding comes from Leontine Linens and Port Holt, 2 of my favorites. I at one point clerked on the Fifth Circuit and would spend a lot of time in New Orleans. And I found these night tables there. And then Lila had this kind of dressing table made for this wall. And above it is one of my favorite pieces of art that I came to about in a very Natalie way, which is on Instagram. I found this artist, Carolyn Mistrek, because she had done a painting of a girl taking a nap. And I just saw it and I was like, how sweet and how inaccurate is this painting? But I love the feeling it evokes. As a parent to young kids, like once they're asleep, it's the best feeling in the world. So I took a lot of creepy photos of my boys sleeping for this commission piece. I would creep into their room and take it. And I gifted this to my husband for one Father's Day because of just the feeling it evokes, of you could take that last exhale and call it a day. This photograph would be Natalie on wedding day, which is also a nice memory of what Natalie used to be before these 2 upstairs Just kidding. I guess I would say that a lot of people, rightly so, want their master to feel peaceful and serene. And I think people, maybe not rightly so, think that in order to achieve that feeling, you can't bring in color. To me, this room is an example of how you can do both. We're not sacrificing our love of color in here, but it is such a respite from downstairs and the madness that goes on down there. And it really is just our own kind of space up here. And so it's special, and we love how it turned out. Idea of the home has significantly changed for me in the last 5 years, which is when I became a mom. Because home is no longer just like a place to come home after work and, entertain on the weekends. It's a place where we're raising our family. And if our life is a play, the backdrop for a lot of these very tender and important years is going to be these rooms and this house. And we brought, even though we moved here when my middle child was 6 months, and so we brought our baby girl here. This is the home she came home to from the hospital. And it's the home where, when they're looking through photo albums, all their Halloweens and all their school, dress up days are going to be in front of this door. And so whether they stay in Houston or not, I just want them to drive by and be like, that is our childhood home. And so that's what home means to me now. It's a place for my children to have a childhood.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Angela, and welcome to my home in Texas. Come on in. I'm excited to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
My name is Angela Guyire, and we are currently in my home in Houston, Texas. So we've lived in this home for around 4.5 years, and funny story, I did not see the house before we moved in. It was completely up to my husband to house hunt and find this home. We were actually living in Mississippi at the time. He started working in Houston. I had just had a baby and was not ready to house hunt. So I entrusted him to find us a home just close to his work. And that's how we ended up here. And I joke that the next house is all my decision. So welcome to our entry, well, faux entry. Our home lacks a formal entry. So I decided to create one myself by filling it with the things that I think represent our family and our style the most, which is a lot of chintz. My favorite Lee Jofa chintz, Althea, which I had made in a table skirt, and some Brunswick Fee, fun little fringe, because everything is more fun with fringe. Just mixing old and new is one of my favorite things to do. So adding coffee table books with some antique rose medallions and this new piece from Alexis Walters, which I still have to get framed, but she's one of my favorite artists. And these are my favorite colors. So just love that it represents us. And it's the first thing you see first thing guests see when they walk into our home. So welcome to our formal living room. This is a space that I have enjoyed decorating the most because, as much as I hate to admit it, it is a place that is kind of a kid-free zone. Like, they're allowed in here, but please don't bring the goldfish and please don't bring the trucks. But I've combined all of my favorite things into one space, like a little chintz, a little chinoiserie, a little drama, a little animal print, which is, a little bit more fun than what I would do in more of a family-friendly zone. So, as I said, we lack a formal entry, but this is also one of the first things that guests see when they walk in. So I found this beautiful mirror in an antique store here in Houston, beautiful blue and white, which I am obsessed with, and my favorite color lamp. And then I've combined all of my favorite things in this one place. I found this Henredon coffee table on Cherish, which I love shopping. You just find so many beautiful antiques there. And actually the first thing I purchased for this home was this beautiful Gracie panel wallpaper panel that I had mounted and framed. And what I love about mounting and framing a wallpaper panel is that you can bring it with you wherever you go next. And that was my thought in mind, because I love the idea of, you know, beautiful chinoiserie, hand-painted wallpaper, but we knew you weren't going to be here forever. So I just love the idea of taking that with us wherever we go. Another one of my favorite things to do is mixing patterns. And I've combined, again, one of my favorite chintzes, Lijofa Althea, with some beautiful other patterns. And what makes it so unique is that you can find a fabric you love and that you've seen everywhere, but then combined with different prints and patterns mixed together, it's just so fresh and so unique. And that's one of my favorite things to do with patterns. I absolutely love this Coromandel screen. I was faced with the tough decision of what to do with this blank and boring wall behind this sofa. And I found this at an antique store and fell in love with it and knew I needed to have it for our home. And it adds such a dramatic feel in here, and I truly love that. Another one of my favorite pieces that I found is this gorgeous chinoiserie planter. I was actually forbidden from buying a real plant ever again, but I purchased this because we're having company over and I just love it. I mean, I can't keep them alive, but it's just so beautiful. You need something live and real in your home at all times, in my opinion. Something that is truly speaks to me, but is more so my mother, and I guess that I got it from her, is this tiger print. This was an old bench that I found and we had reupholstered, and it's just fun and dramatic, and I just love the pattern play in here. It's just so great. Another one of my favorite things to do is to buy lamps and then have them zhuzhed up with some fun pleated lampshades, and this pleat was actually the fabric in our primary bedroom that we reused to have made for this fun little lampshade. This has just become a really cozy space for us. And one of the newest additions to this space, which is one of my favorite pieces of all time, is this commode, but she's a commode with a secret. She turns into a secretary's desk. So I just thought that was so fun. And this is where I store all of my placemats and all of my tablecloths that I love to use for our dining room tables. So I just thought that was really fun. So next we'll move into the dining room. This home was built in the late 80s and 90s. So it has a lot of those details and lacks a lot of the character and charm that I love from the 20s and, you know, the beautiful arches and the moldings. So because we know we're not staying here for a long period of time, instead of redoing the whole house, we've just tried to fill it with things that bring us a lot of joy and beautiful furniture and wallpaper and things that were less permanent. And we've truly loved the way it's turned out so far. So welcome to our dining room. I love this space because we've truly transformed it with this beautiful wallpaper. Most of the things in here, to be honest, are either antique or vintage finds. This table was an antique, and these chairs were actually antique finds that we had painted and reupholstered in a beautiful cravat fabric. The wallpaper is truly unique and special, and truly makes our home so special and unique because this color was actually customized based on a paint sample that I sent to Waterhouse Wall Hangings. I fell in love with this beautiful fabric on our chairs, wanted it to match because I'm sort of a maximalist, and they were able to customize this based on the fabric, and I love it so much and definitely want to recreate this wherever we go next. But I have to say that my favorite piece in the whole entire house, and this room of course, is this antique set that my father gave my mother for an anniversary. And I had loved it so much in my mother's home, and I kept repeating it every time I'd go home. And eventually she was like, Angela, you can have it. So I remember at Christmas dinner one year, she said that, and I ran upstairs, got my suitcase, went downstairs with my suitcase, packed it up, so fast in case she changed her mind. And I mean, that was kind of a faux pas at Christmas dinner, but I loved it so much, and I truly believe she gave it to me because she was sick of polishing it, but her loss is my gain, and it is truly a reminder of my mom and my dad and the antiques that she loves and the character and charm that they bring to their home that I want in my own home. And it reminds me of her, so I just love that. Also a beautiful antique find, same with the mirror, and this is a new visual comfort chandelier. And I have to say, setting tables is one of my favorite things to do. I truly love it. Just, you know, whether it's for Sunday brunch, Sunday dinner, or just hosting people at home. And I do love creating floral arrangements. But the floral shop here in Houston, the floral studio here in Houston, created these beautiful florals for me because we're actually hosting a dinner for a friend's birthday tonight, and they did such an amazing job. But I love this room. If I could describe my dream dining room, this would be it. It is truly a blue and white chinoiserie dream, and I think I fit in quite well here. This is china I actually found at an antique store somewhere in Texas. I don't remember where I was. I love it so much. I paired it with our monogrammed napkins that I use quite often, and just some beautiful placemats that I love to collect. I am obsessed with all things tableware, placemats and tablescapes and tablecloths. They just bring me so much joy to set a table that's so unique because you can really speak to your personality when you set a table. And then you entertain other people here, and it just shows your personality. So I just love that. I've decorated my house in, I'd like to say, a more traditional style. I love mixing new pieces with antiques and reupholstering old pieces to give them new life. I love color, so I definitely think it's more traditional than any other style, but with a twist. I do love to incorporate some new pieces with old pieces to, you know, show my personality a little. I do fancy myself a little chintz, actually a lot of chintz. I'm so grateful that I have a husband that fully embraces it, but chintz is one of my favorite. I am a sucker for a good floral. I love pattern mixing. I love mixing colors together to create something that's different and fun. Let's move into the family room. So this is our family room, and this is where we spend majority of our time, because even though we have a playroom, my children insist on being close to me at all times. But when designing this room, I knew I needed to be family friendly, so I chose a lot of performance fabrics. So everything from the sofa to the carpet to the chair was chosen with family in mind. So this is a fun chair. It was an old chair that I found that I had reupholstered in a cravat performance fabric, but of course, everything is better with fringe. So I had the Samuel & Sons fringe made, and it says, you know, I'm kind of a fun mom. These chairs I love, and these colors usually are not what I would gravitate toward, but I found this fabric. Meredith Ellis used this fabric in a Kip Space Show house in Dallas a few years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's a Lisa Fine fabric, and I knew I needed to have it. So I had these old benches reupholstered and some coordinating pillows made with it. Not to say that this is the most family-friendly coffee table, but I love it, and my kids are old enough to not, you know, bump their heads and all of that stuff. I know I've said that this house was built in the 80s or 90s, so it has some quirks to it that we weren't very keen on, you know, redoing because we're not staying here for long. And one of those quirks is the fact that this cabinet here used to store the TV because they were just smaller, you know, back in the 80s and 90s. And not knowing what to do with it and not wanting to replace, I made it my little secret bar, which I think is fun. It's my little tequila bar because I do love myself some tequila. So just a little spot, and of course everyone needs a bar in their family room. I mean, who doesn't? But yes, I just love this space and how it's turned out. Another one of my favorite little things is to, you know, add some fun lampshades to just regular lamps. And yes, filling my bookshelves with things that are old and new. I love bookshelf styling. I think it's always so fun to see how people style their bookshelves. It really speaks to their personality. I love myself some chinoiserie and rose medallions and coffee table books. I'd say my tips for bookshelf styling is to always mix new and old. Always use coffee table books, but mix them vertically, horizontally. Then fill it in with things that you love the most. And for me, that's a lot of blue and white and chinoiserie and plates and decorative things. Family pictures, things that speak to you, especially when you're in a family room and you want it to, reflect your style and reflect your personality and yourself as a family. Things like family pictures or things that you've collected along when you travel, things that are important to you, there's always a spot for them on your bookshelves. So when designing a space for your family, you also have to consider the fact that not only your family will be here, but multiple people will be here and at once. And if you don't want to sit next to each other all the time, then having multiple different sections of seating is one of my favorite things to do. I don't particularly love sectional sofas, so creating little sections of seating was the ideal choice for us. We started with a sofa that fit the space well. We have 2 additional seating pieces right here, and then a comfy space that if someone wants to read, they can come here too, along with benches for additional seating if anyone needed it, or just to put their foot up. But there's plenty of seating options for everyone here for what they're doing and all the things that we do in here, which is crafts and all the fun stuff when you have children. One of my favorite things to do is to light candles when I'm home. I just love filling my house with scents that just bring me a lot of happiness. And my favorite for this time of year is Thyme's simmered cider. And it is so good. It smells like fall, but it's also so good all year round. So I have 2 young children, ages 4 and 6, and while I was decorating this home, of course, I had to consider their ages in mind. So a lot of the things that we've chosen for our home are family-friendly, performance fabrics, things like that, or darker colors that will hide the stains, and performance-friendly sofas and rugs and things like that. But I do have to say that I was grateful that this home did come with a formal living room, because as much as I love my children, this is the one room we are not allowed to roll Tonka trucks up and down and color and paint. And so I do have my little space despite everything else being very family friendly. I have made this space uniquely mine by truly taking my time and finding things that I love. I made the mistake in my old home of just buying things to buy it to get it furnished. And I ended up with a home I did not like and things I didn't like. So I learned my lesson the hard way. And with this house, I've truly taken my time to find things that I truly love, want to be in this house or my next house forever, by finding classic pieces and reupholstering them in fabric that I love and that bring me joy, that I can see myself loving 20 years down the road. So here we are in our kitchen, our little breakfast nook, and one of my favorite things about this home is how it opens up, the kitchen opens up to our family space, because it truly allows that semi-open concept that I love while still having everything a little bit separate, which I love in the more traditional sense. This is where we have all of our meals as a family with our children. One of my favorite things to do is on Sundays, we set a fun little brunch table. So this is just a little representation. I love a beautiful tablecloth with beautiful florals, and these are from the Floral Studio. And we haven't renovated our kitchen because we knew we were going to stay here for a long time. So I've just kind of filled everything with blue and white plates in hopes that it disguises things. But the funny story about this plate wall is that I actually created this to hide one quirky feature of our home, which is a light switch right there. And that's how it all started. And I've just kind of built it, and it keeps on going. And I just love that. But the chairs were upholstered in a performance fabric, and we just love spending our time in here. It's just so bright and just so cozy. I am sadly the chef in our household. I'm not very good, nor do I enjoy cooking. And our kitchen makes it difficult to cook in, to be honest. But I'd like to think that one day I will perfect my cooking skills. Today is not that day, but maybe in a few years. So when I went to college and was forced to decide on a major, I truly had no idea what I wanted to do. I had always loved interior design, and in fact, one of my favorite parts about college was decorating my dorm room. But I settled on a communications degree, and then after college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and in a true Elle Woods moment, I said, why not law school? Or my parents actually said, why not law school? So I went to law school, graduated with law at a school in Chicago and passed the bar in Mississippi. And I decided to stay home with my son at the time, not knowing anyone there. And so once we moved to Houston and COVID happened, I started decorating my own home and found it so much fun and knew that my passion was interior design. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am. So this is our little bar area. It's off the kitchen and off the dining room, but conveniently located by the laundry room because we all need a drink when we're doing laundry. One of my favorite things to collect is colored glassware, just making it fun for guests, but it's also fun to display all of these cool colors in here. These are actually a combination of antiques or just old pieces and new pieces. I love these so much. These were found in Round Top. These were found at an estate sale, I believe, and the rest are just new. I have mixed some of my fun cabbageware, which I love to collect, and just some beautiful things. I also have an addiction with cocktail napkins. This is my drawer, which I'm slowly organizing, but it has all of my cocktail napkins that I've collected and had monogrammed, and there will be some more soon. But yes, right next to our bar is our laundry room. In my mind, I spent like 99% of my time in here. It is a small space, so to make it a little bit more bearable, we had it wallpapered in this gorgeous Schumacher blue and white chinoiserie wallpaper, and it makes doing laundry a little bit more bearable. The cabinets were actually painted when we moved in. It just so happened that the wallpaper I loved matched it perfectly, so we didn't have to do much in that respect. What I love most about this home is that we have created a home that just works for our family and that just speaks to us and shows our personality and just represents us as a whole. I think a home comes alive when people fill it with things that truly represent themselves and their personality and the things that bring them the most joy. And that's different for everyone. And that's what makes homes so unique, and that's what makes it tell a story. So next, let's head into our primary bedroom. But first, here's this little hallway that leads to our primary bedroom that I wanted to dress up because you see it from the rest of our living spaces. So we had another beautiful Gracie panel that I had mounted and framed, and I love it so much because, of course, we can take it with us wherever we go. Welcome to our primary bedroom. I think it's safe to say that one of my favorite color combinations is blue and white. So I knew I needed that in our primary bedroom. It's just such a soothing and classic and timeless color combination, even though my first choice was a colorful floral that my husband vetoed pretty quickly. But I fell in love with the Schumacher Versailles fabric and knew I needed to use it everywhere in this bedroom. So we had this old headboard painted and reupholstered with some coordinating pillows, and of course, every woman needs a skirted vanity, so I had a skirted vanity made in this same fabric as well. This bench right here is one of my favorite finds. It was found at an estate sale here that I also had reupholstered in another gorgeous Schumacher blue and white print because we are fully embracing the blue and white in this room. And same with this chair. I am a huge fan of finding old pieces and reupholstering them, but this chair is the exception. I found it here at an antique store here in Houston and absolutely fell in love with the bows and the floral bouquets. I mean, if there was a print that spoke to me more than this, I don't think there was one. It is just stunning. And this is my little oasis away from the children, away from the husbands. It is my skirted vanity in the matching Versailles fabric that I love so much. It's with my beautiful little bow antique mirror that I found recently at an antique store here in Houston. And same with this Schumacher Versailles pleated lampshade just to top it all off with the blue and white in here. I have many favorite chintzes and they're all very floral. My favorite chintz is Lee Joffa Althea. You'll see it throughout the house in many different rooms. I also love Lee Joffa Floral Bouquet. I was dying to use it in my master bedroom, my primary bedroom, but my husband vetoed that pretty quickly. It's Mario Boada's favorite chintz too. It's very pink, very floral, very girly. I truly love it. I will find a spot for it somewhere in this home, but I love myself some florals. They're just so fun. They're just so great, and you can mix them with anything, and that's what makes it so unique and fun. So now let's head upstairs to the rest of the bedrooms. Welcome to our catch-all space, which I have slowly decided to make it into our playroom, because as much as I love my children bothering me downstairs all the time, I think it's time that they have their own space. So this is a new work in progress that we have slowly made into the playroom. Just some fun features in here, like these fun Sister Parish pillows with the Schumacher trim and these casual linen drapes. These benches I found at an estate sale and had them reupholstered in another fun Sister Parish fabric with some Samuel and Sons fringe, and just love the little scallop details and the cute little pendants. But my favorite thing in here is the treadmill that I asked for 3 years ago for my birthday, and that's still not plugged in. Makes a really cute addition to this playroom, don't you think? But yes, these built-ins were here when we moved in, so we fully embraced the red, white, and blue theme. I love the theme, and I love that color palette for a gender-neutral playroom or a gender-neutral nursery. And we just, add some fun little finishing touches in here, like the baseballs that we've caught at games and just family pictures and things like that. So it's a work in progress in here, but I'm loving the way it's turning out, and hopefully my kids will migrate up here when they want to play. So I'm very grateful to have a husband that is completely on board with my style. He trusts me completely, and mostly because he knows that he doesn't have a sense of style. No, I'm just kidding, but he does trust me, and I love that about him. Also, my other model is to do it and then ask for forgiveness later. It's already been done. But no, he truly loves it, and he's loved the way this home has turned out. So I'm forever grateful for that. So right off the playroom, we have our son's room. And I love this space because when we moved into this home, he was still in a crib and it was a nursery. So we had free creative liberty in what we wanted to do for his big boy room. And of course, he wanted a monster truck room, but we settled on his favorite colors, which was blue and green, which happen to be two of my favorite colors as well. So we just love how it's so cozy, and it really, truly brings him a lot of joy to be in here, which makes me happy. We did this beautiful Sister Parish fabric, which is just so fun and playful, with pillows and the bench cushion here. And of course, every lampshade needs something fun, so we did these beautiful green and white Vermoy lampshades there. And one of my favorite things about his room is this fun antique table that turns into a game table. I thought that was really cool. Eventually, maybe he'll do some homework in here, who knows? But these were also found at antique stores here in Houston. Same with those. So love mixing old and new. And I mean, I wouldn't be smart if I put a super expensive lamp in here. So this is a very inexpensive lamp base with a beautiful lampshade with Brunswick Effease fabric. I just love that so much. And I don't love a themey room, but sailboats have a super special meaning to me. I grew up on the water in my family's home, and I just love that for a little boy. I just love that theme. So we have a lot of sailboats in here for him. And of course, we have to pay tribute to his design style, which is lots of stickers on the wall. So gotta love it. So because my husband picked out this home, I gave him a 5-year deadline. That was, we were gonna stay in this house for 5 years and then find something that we could both agree upon in a neighborhood we liked, because we wanted to explore Houston more. We moved here not knowing anything about Houston. So we're looking now. It's just been incredibly difficult. And my husband isn't too keen on the idea of a fixer-upper, but the more we look at homes, the more that I think that's the path we need to choose, because I have a very particular taste and a very particular style. So I just want to do something that I pick out and represents my style, and that probably is a fixer-upper. Welcome to my daughter's room, and she is 4 but acts like 16, so we needed a space that kind of fit her personality, but it was a little bit more sophisticated. One of my favorite pieces in her room that was actually from her nursery was this canopy that we had made in a vintage chintz, of course, made from Brunswick Effease, and I love it so much. And when deciding what to do with her big girl bed, we knew we needed to find something that coordinated well with this pattern because I will keep it forever. And we settled on this beautiful Schumacher print, and I love it. And of course, some beautiful ruffles because she's a girl and she loves her fancy frills and all of that fun stuff. But to make this room a little bit more funky like she is, we added this Stray Dog Designs chandelier here. And of course, just like I do, she has a skirted vanity in this stunning, beautiful vintage bow fabric, which I love so much. We have transformed this little nursery into a place that's still a work in progress, but she loves being in here, loves all of her books, and the pink and green, which are her favorite colors, and we love the way it's turned out so far. So for her bookshelves, like most of our bookshelves, we mixed a little bit of old and new. This was her sweet first birthday hat with her monogram and little bow, and these two are cute little antique pieces. Same with the little silver, that was from my childhood, and we just mixed it with a bunch of fun new books that are her favorite with some little ruffled, scalloped, and beautiful little wicker baskets. Another one of my favorite pieces in this house, because I love cabbageware and antiques and vintage finds, is this adorable little cabbageware tea set that I found for her room. And she just has so much fun playing with it. It's really, really sweet, and I just love it. Pink and green, of course. I think who inspires me the most is Mario Buada, who of course is the Prince of Chintz, and my mother, who I have learned so much from and who I have tried to emulate my home based on the home that we grew up in. It was very traditional, very much so the style that I have now. She filled our home with antiques and was always at estate sales and antique stores. And just every piece had a story. The room that I grew up in was a pink and green toile. And then I moved into my sister's room, which was a blue and yellow toile. She used a lot of florals and a lot of traditional elements that I love to incorporate in my own home. This is our guest room, and what I love about it is we were able to create this room from scratch because, believe it or not, this room was once purple. And so when I wanted to design the space, I wanted somewhere that our guests could feel comfortable and cozy, and just the vibe we wanted was like a French countryside hotel or an English countryside hotel. So I knew I wanted like a floral chintz, but not something overdone. So I found this Pierre Frey Gruz fabric and knew I needed to use it. And it's not colors I would typically gravitate towards. So I was expanding out of my blues and greens and pinks. But I love it so much. We had the headboard reupholstered with some matching pillows with some fun fringe, and this Schumacher check, which we also had a beautiful skirted table because every room needs a skirted table. Designing these bookshelves, which were here, was the ultimate challenge because how do you fill a space this big? But I was able to do it with a lot of estate sale finds, old books, and some also new blue and white pieces. But my favorite part is that I was actually able to get good use out of my law school books because I was able to use them in my bookshelf styling. So my parents are very proud of me. Another one of my favorite pieces in here, which is a new addition, is this beautiful secretary's desk. And I love, love, love the bow detailing on that as well. And funny story about this armoire is that someone in my neighborhood was giving it away for free. And I just cannot believe it because they posted it like 2 days after I found this gorgeous bow secretary's desk at an estate sale or an antique store. And it has another beautiful bow detailing, and I just love it so much. So it truly makes the room feel so cozy and has that vintage vibe that I was looking for so much in this room. The word home is somewhere that you feel safe, that you feel comfortable in, and the place that truly represents your own style and your own personality.
Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome to Texas. I'm Tina.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, my name is Tina Pine, and we're in Houston, Texas, where the bigger the hair, the closer to God. I need to work on mine a little bit, don't you think? Houston is a big city. I've been here since 1986, and it has grown. It's unbelievable how it's grown, and it's a great city to live in. I love it. I met my husband here. I had my child here. We raised her here. It's just a wonderful place to live. You may have seen me on Homeworthy before with our Maine home. We live in Maine in the summer. It's a lot cooler. That's the only bad thing about Houston is it's pretty darn hot here for about 3 to 4 months. So I married a Yankee. His family has been there in Maine over 100 years. So we are pretty much stuck in Maine in the summers. I wouldn't use the word stuck. It's a great place to be. We live on the water. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana called New Iberia, Louisiana. It's where they make Tabasco sauce, from a family of 8 children. You can't even imagine how it is to grow up with so many people in a household. At Christmas, there's 90-something people around Christmas. I grew up in a huge family. My husband grew up in a smaller family with only 4 kids. And they lived in different places. They lived in Harbor Island. They lived in Maine, of course, and he grew up in Far Hills, New Jersey. So I married a Yankee. It's like we're from 2 different worlds, and we have a child who's a little of both of us. It's been a very fun thing to incorporate him into things and him teach me things. It truly is like we're from 2 different countries, but it's a lot of fun. This apartment is in an area of Houston called River Oaks, and it's been here a long time. The building is built very, very well. It is 7,260 square feet, I think, give or take a few inches there. We bought it as raw space and completely finished it. We lived in a house on Del Monte, which is another street not far from here. And the house was totally traditional. And I wanted to make it a little more modern with modern art. So I call it transitional. It's the antique pieces mixed with more modern furniture to make it a little more lively, lighter colors. It's just, and with a lot of art because we're art collectors and we love that. This is the entry, and what I love about this apartment is the elevator doors open into it. Of course, you have a fob that can only go to your room, so it's private. It's not like anybody can just walk in, but I love that. And I love this very favorite piece of art by Anthony James, which is, if you saw the movie The Glass Onion, he did a huge one for Ed Norton, and that's his real piece. And it's just, you have to look at it like this. And when my daughter has friends over, this whole thing is covered with fingerprints and nose prints. There's a lot more important pieces of art in this apartment, but this is the one everybody loves. Then I'll have you look at this piece of my daughter. It's a portrait by a young artist named Seth Haverkamp. I think this kid is fantastic. He's won the, I'm going to say this wrong, the National Portrait Association or American Portrait Association like 3 times. And he really captured her. And of course, I like a little whimsical pieces like some cherries on the table. This is Sarah Martin McCrae. She's a Maine artist. Well, I bought her piece in Maine. She lives there now, at least in the summers. And it's Washington crossing the Delaware. And if you look closely, there's a horse climbing over, and that's a self-portrait of her with her dog, which I think is really fun and cool. Let's go to the living room. You walk into the living room, and of course, those of you that saw the main show saw that I love Brian White's work. And Brian White did this dress in the corner, which I'm going to show you now. It's made of seashells. He did it from a Dior dress that I showed him a picture of. And it's all made of abalone shells, and I mean, is that cool? And of course, this is Donald Sultan, who we love. And over here is our newest acquisition. It's a Winslow Homer small piece called The Shepherdess, and I really love it. It's just, bought that in Maine. It's interesting. dealers will call me and show me a piece that they have. And I mean, look at the variety of art. This is just so different. It's not any one thing. It's what I love. And I love to find it. I mean, the hunt's half of the fun. Brian White I gave him a challenge. I asked him to make me these little pieces, and they're made of copper, and he did flowers on them. I saw something like some little pieces, and they were outrageously expensive, so I thought, well, I could get Brian to make that for me, and he did. I just love those little pieces. Noel made this furniture, and this coffee table's really big. This is a piece by Dale Dunning that we got in Canada. I mean, I get them all over the place. There's a great shop in Houston. Let's see, I'm suffering from this disease called CRS. Can't remember the name of it. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, it's just really fun. This piece actually belongs to my daughter. Her godfather, Joe's brother, gave that to her. He passed away this year. And she said, Mom, that is really not very pretty. I love it, but not so much for a 23-year-old. But I'm hanging on to it for her. These interesting pieces came from Moxie. I just think they're so fun the way that they did them. It's a little shop in Houston. And that's a Richard Erdman piece. And let me tell you about the art dealer we got this from. Her name's Melissa Morgan. She also represents Anthony James. She's in Palm Desert, California, and that is one of the best art galleries you've ever been to. If you're in that area, you should go by and have a look. She has great stuff, and she's always finding things for me. The colors in this home are neutral because the art is the color. I didn't want to compete with a lot of different things, although I did a kinky wallpaper in the bathroom that's kind of dark. But I think that a home needs to feel serene. A lot of people love loud colors, and I think it's great, but I have to live here, and I want to feel calm when I come home. And that's why I always like to use neutral colors and have the art as the color in the home. We bought a unit in this building because we think it's a great building. We lived in a house on Del Monte, and our daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school, and we bought a smaller unit. It needed to be redone, and my husband kept saying it might be a tad too small. It just might be. So I had a friend who wanted to look for another unit. So the two of us began to look, and when the elevator doors opened here, it was completely raw space on the 12th floor, which is like 180-foot elevation, give or take. And I saw the views, and I just thought, oh my God, I can make this place really fabulous. With the elevator doors opening into the apartment, I just want to do this. It was on the market for probably 4 years. And interesting enough, it was owned by a Saudi prince who actually lived here and then didn't live here for 10 years. He had a leak, he didn't fix it, they made him take it down to the stud, so it was totally raw space. He had it priced pretty high. So my husband was reading the paper and not paying attention, and I do all of our real estate buys, I buy our cars, he doesn't mess with any of that. I do all of it because I love it. And he's sitting there reading the paper, and I said, hey, I saw this raw space, and I thought I'd make an offer on it. And he's reading the paper and he's not paying attention to me, but he didn't say no. So I went back and I made this really low-ball offer on it, and I didn't hear back for a week. So Monday morning, we're beginning to tear down the other apartment and start on it. And Friday afternoon, the realtor calls. She says, hey, the Saudi prince says he needs $200,000 more. I said, tell him to stick it up his royal ass. And she goes, oh my God, could I say that nicer? I said, of course you can. So she came back 15 minutes later. He said he took the offer. I said, oh my God, now I have to go get the money from Joe. So I went home and I said, Joe, you know that unit I told you about? He said, no, what? I said, the one on the raw space. He said, yeah. I said, I bought it. He said, what? I said, I bought it. He said, for what? I told him the price. He said, can I see it? There's no way you did that. I said, yes, I did. So that's how this journey began. Let's go to the dining room. This table has been in my husband's family, I think, since 1760. And it's important to him that it stays in the family and that he keeps it. I think it's going to go to his son when we sell the house. This chandelier is a Richelieu. It's a French chandelier that I bought at a shop in New Orleans many, many years ago. And then I have Yoga Girl. She came from Moxie here in Houston. I just think she's kind of kinky and fun. Another Sultan here, another Sultan here. These two pieces are Ken Nolan's, which we got in Maine. Ken Nolan lived in Maine and painted in Maine like a lot of great artists, and I was able to get these from a dealer there. And I just love them. It's just very different than this dining table, but I think it all kind of blends well together. Let's go to the kitchen, one of my favorite rooms. Welcome to a kitchen with a house attached. I love this kitchen. I had so much fun doing this room. It was just so much fun. These kitchen counters are like, and I'm not going to say like 5 centimeters. I looked for 2 years trying to find the marble that would fit like this, and we finally took us 2 years to find it. You know, these wine holders that I use for my everyday, well, I only have one set of flatware. I use them to store it because it's so easy when you have people lined up here. They come and get their stuff, and it just makes it easier for me. Plus, you've got fancy schmancy stuff, you need to use it. And of course, I have all of my kitchen goodies on silver trays because I had the trays and I want to use them. And I try to use everything I can. And that's my collection of copper pots, which I do use. I use that, and I also like to use black iron skillets because I am from Louisiana, let's not forget. When I spend the summer in Maine, I like to grow my own herbs. So I take them here because we live in a high-rise and dry them out. God, that smells good. And I dry them out and I put them in all these containers. So I have everything that I have in Maine here on a smaller scale, of course. And of course, got to have some honey and some peppers and all this fun stuff. Parsley. That's garlic. These are shallots, dried shallots. We have our salt in here. This is like this smoked salt. Oh my God, I love that stuff. Some pepper. Oh, lovely pepper. And I even have some extra chives in a bag back here. Let's smell that. Smoked. Yummy, 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 yummy. Let's see what else we got here. Have to have my Tony Chachere's, my Cajun seasoning. And, oh yeah, and you know what this is for? This is for bacon grease, honey. We always got to have bacon grease in a Cajun kitchen. Put it on almost everything. And then over here, I have these cool bottles that I collect. And I put vinegars, and this one has a champagne vinegar in it, and all of my little concoctions. I do my own balsamic, I do, and then of course I have oils. And this isn't a big collection, but I have some of them here. And of course, I've got to have my gallon of Tabasco sauce, because that's New Iberia, the berry, as we call it. I put them on silver trays because when Joe and I got married, we both had silver, and I want to use my stuff. I don't want to keep it in a closet. So I just put them on silver trays because it's just pretty. First thing I got when we decided to do this apartment was I bought these doors. I knew I'd use them somewhere. I thought, oh, bedroom entrance. No, it's a pantry entrance. And there's my pantry. It's great. It's got a silver closet in it. It's got storage galore. It's just way fun. Let me show you this little piece of art that I love. Oh, don't forget the copper pots. I love them. I love them. I love them. These are my babies. and I have been collecting them for years. Lucky for me, when Joe and I got married, his mother had a collection of them, so we combined them, and I cook in them all the time. That's why they don't look all pretty and shiny. They actually are used. I have sauce ones here, and we'll have this one that I got in Paris in this little shop that I love the shape of. I want to find another one like that. And this one I do souffles in. Well, not souffles so much, like frittatas and things like that. And this is, it's supposed to be a fish pot, but I use it for all kinds of things. I do omelets. I do all kinds of things in it, and I really use them. And here's my little cute aprons. Oh, wait, I even have a mink apron for when I have fancy dinners. Got some little lips on it. And this is a Deborah Butterfield. I think she's so cool. This is actually made of bronze. It can go indoors or outdoors. I love horses. I grew up with horses, and I just love that piece. Okay, this may look a little nasty to you, but it's not. This is vinegar that I make, red wine vinegar. You start off with a mother, you know, like you can buy some in the grocery store, doesn't matter what flavor or whatever, put it in there. And then when you don't finish a bottle of wine on that rare occasion, you just pour the rest of it in there. Our bottle's gone to vinegar. You just pour it in, white wine, it doesn't matter, champagne, whatever. And over time, it makes the best red wine vinegar. I also, each year, because I give it away for Christmas, I flavor it differently. One year is rosemary, and the next year is like maybe a cranberry. But if you're going to use that, you want to use a concentrate, because if you just put raspberries in there, they'll get mold on them, and I've ruined a whole one by doing that. So you want to use a concentrate to add a flavor to it. It makes a great Christmas gift. A home has to show you. You walk in and it tells a story about your life. It tells a story about how you feel and what makes you comfortable. I don't like to do the normal decorator things of the 2 couches, and sometimes I like to put 4 chairs, which you'll see in another room that we did here, that swivel, that people can actually sit and talk. It has to feel you. We've had parties here where people are all over the place, and we've had political functions here and different things for different charities. These doors behind me all close, so you can enclose the rooms or have all 3 rooms open to each other. I love an open house. I don't like choppy little rooms. Let's look at the family room. This is a room where we spend an awful lot of time. I got my alligator head up here because I got to have my Louisiana connection. These are swivel chairs. Instead of doing the normal 2 couches facing each other, I thought this was a lot more intimate and a lot more fun. And Joe hates for a television to show, so we got a little hidden, except that way. Sorry, went the wrong way. A TV hidden here that just twirls around. So you can watch television if you want to, but why watch television when you have a view like this? It's just lovely. It's lovely. And we sit here, and it's really, when you have just 4 people, it's the best place to sit. The chairs are super comfortable. You can talk, you can swirl and talk to people, and it's just great. Joe spends a lot of time in here. He does his paperwork in this room, and you could sit here and just look at this view. Oh, it's just heaven. So let's go to Cammie's room, but let's stop at the bar first. Again, I wanted to use these trays, so that's what I did with them. And this, the same guy that did the other head did this piece, and it's made of teletypes. Isn't that cool? Love that. I'm going to show you a cool piece of furniture now. Joe's grandmother, Petty Point, Needlepoint, this piece in 1934, there's the date and her initials, but it's a card table. Isn't that just, it's so interesting to have something like this. We don't have anything like this from my family. Let's go to see Cammie's room. Cammie's a 23-year-old law student at Tulane. So this is a coffee bar, but when she lived here, it was a bar. I mean, she had this thing set up. I thought it was kind of cool that she thought of that. Her room was the most fun to do. I love this painting. It is just Hunt Sloan. I just think it's so fun and shiny, and it just adds all of the color. But I enjoy doing this room. It was so much fun. It just so simple, but look at the wallpaper in her bathroom. This is Cammie's bathroom. I love it. I love doing it. I did a waterfall thing here. It's Schumacher from like the 60s. Isn't it great? It comes in like a gold too. I kind of wish I'd have gotten the gold, but I will be working on that in another house. I love it. When I decided to do this room, she needed storage. So these things pull out and they're great storage. And you'd be surprised how many kids have slept here. It's amazing. It's just wide enough and they, you know, crash. We can hear them having a blast in here. She has her own separate entrance to the back. You see these knobs that have P's on them? They all came from the Plaza Hotel. I was at an architectural place in New York and he had a box full of knobs that came from the Plaza Hotel, like these two, these doorknobs. Aren't they cool? I just love them. So let's look at the bedroom. I'd like to show you something a little special. We have a little secret room, and that's where my husband's stuff is, kind of man stuff, fishing gear, hunting gear, etc., etc. Isn't that cool? I love that. Okay, let's see what else. There's nothing really. This is just some antique pieces that we had, and this mirror that I've had for probably 30 years. It's gone from house to house to house. It's just such a great piece. This is an interesting piece of art. It's made by a Korean artist whose name I will not massacre, but it is made of little pieces of paper and plastic. I just think it's such an interesting piece. Got that at Garisco Gallery as well in DC. I love these lamps. They're fun. This is a piece I've had for many, many years that was gold, and we just put a different top on it so we could use it in this house. I feel like the view is absolutely part of the house. And I mean, nobody understands how green Houston is. They come to Texas and they think we've got tumbleweeds, but it's very green as you look out of the window and see. And at night, it's spectacular to look out. So that's why I don't like too much fussy furniture, fussy things. I mean, I love art. The furniture is just something that's added to have a place to sit and to sleep. Oh, I do love that lamp, that chandelier. It's an old Baccarat piece, believe it or not, from the 50s or 60s. Welcome to my closet, darling. I want to show you this fun thing. This is a mirror that you can see if the back of your hair is, is done, and mine's not. Should have looked at it sooner, but it's behind me. What can I say? And it has a light that shows, oh yeah, now I got it. It goes from daytime to nighttime. It's just such a cool toy. There's some things about this closet. It's kind of a Pinterest closet that I have these shoe racks that do this. And I grew up with a big family, as you know, and we always had a Lazy Susan on our table. So what about a Lazy Susan for your shoes that you can flip around, and your bags, actually for my bags, but you can put shoes in there if you want to, that you can move the shelves around. I mean, I think that is such a fun thing. I think other things that are important in a closet are these little sticks. I hang stuff on them all the time. You're packing, you're getting ready to go. It's just a great asset. Have as many as you can possibly fit in a closet. You never have enough of them. I love that. But anyway, look at this side. And I didn't do anything. This is what it looks like. It's a little messy, but that's okay. This is how I live. and the racks that, of course, pull down. I do have a little mood board for colors because you're always trying to put things together and you don't think about it. So I cut these things out. Oh, and these are all my funny stickers. You know, like not the brightest crayon in the box, are we? I stick them here. Unattended children will be given an espresso and a kitten. I was put on this planet to shop for new shoes and consume massive amounts of chocolate products. Here's another one. It's been lovely, but I have to scream now. I just love to read them. I can please only one person per day, and it's not your day. Tomorrow's like not looking good either. I have all kinds of fun things like that I use to do my color combinations. Because you forget, you know, if you're wearing a particular color like sage, that you can actually wear candy apple or fuchsia or Kelly green with it. That you can, you know, get the butter with apricot and just mixing your colors up, which I don't do enough of. I kind of have a tendency to be very neutral. But I'm learning by looking at the boards. And I have these cute little wooden things that I put hats on. This is my New York Yacht Club hat. Just have fun with it. It's not too, I'm not too serious about anything. I am a multitasker. I can listen, ignore, and forget all at the same time. This is what my friends give me for gifts. I love it. This is the bathroom. Oh, serenity. I love it. And I love to lay in the tub and read this. Can you try to read it? Ooh la la la, whatever it says. It's really fun. I got that in an auction. I just thought it was so fun. Don't even know who the artist is. And this tub, oh my God, I love this tub. I can lay down all the way in it and just soak. I did these kind of cool shelves with thick glass. I just thought, we were in Paris at the Ritz, I think, and they had this thick glass in the bathroom, and I just thought it looked so beautiful that I wanted to do something like it, that they slide in. Love the wallpaper. It's just soothing. And then this is the view. I mean, look at this. How could you not be grateful for something like this that you can see? Again, the silver trays everywhere. My mother-in-law gave me this. Her mother-in-law gave it to her when she got married. And it was black and tarnished and broken. I had it restored, and it's my mirror to brush my teeth to in the morning, and I get to see it all the time. Love it. It's something else I bought at auction I just thought was attractive, and I like the shape and form of it, so I got it. And it looks cool in here, I think. I can look through it and see the skyline. I'm so fortunate, and I thank my lucky stars every day. I mean, we're alive another day. I thank God for it. Home is where my family is. I don't care if it's here or if it's in Maine or if it's in California, it's where my family is. That's home to me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.